What we do here is go back.
Oi, you sexy motherfuckers. What's that? Just accidentally muted myself. And again. Oh, crazy times. It's rock and roll central over here. How are we getting on? I'm vaguely sensible. Thank you for asking. Right. No fucking around. Right, we got shit to do tonight. Proper politics and that.
Stop it.
Okay?
Get some help.
Quite so, Michael, quite so. Please don't swear. Shut the fuck up. Arizal, or Dave in North London, you dickhead. Nah, I'm only playing. But seriously, I will never stop swearing. I do have to cut down a little bit, I think, sometimes. I will listen to myself back and it just like... It's a little bit much at times. Well, you may not have been expecting it, Seamstress Dragon, but it's what you got. And it's a beautiful thing, is it not? We embrace all sorts. Thank you, Eric the Red, for resubscribing. Much love to you. Yes, so we're going to be on with No Justice of the MTGs in just a moment. But if you enjoy my work, and why would you not? It is, after all, fucking banging. You can hit the follow button. You can subscribe. You can subscribe with Amazon Prime. You can give subs to the community. You can do bits messages, 200 bitty bits. Gets you text to speech. You can do super chats for the Streamlabs link below. $2 or more, that gets you a text to speech. You can hit me up on Patreon, PayPal, YouTube, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Threads. Also, if you're on YouTube, hello YouTubers. You can smash the fuck out of the like button and the subscribe button. You can do super chats, which I will read out, especially if they're rude. And you can become a member for as little as 99p and give memberships to the community. These are things that you can do, chatterinos. Hello there, Helena.
How are you doing, Kev? You alright?
I'm alive, and that's all that really matters.
Always helps.
It's sort of a prerequisite for anything else, really, isn't it?
Exactly. It's definitely optimal.
It would be, honestly, trickier to do cock jokes if I was dead.
True. Very true.
Which, I mean, you don't get analysis like that on every show. But it is technically true. Yeah, how have you been?
Yeah, not too bad. Spent all day doing editing, so
that is.
I mean, I was productive. I did productivity. Imagine that.
True, but also boring as fuck.
It was incredibly. To be fair, actually, I was editing I don't know if you've seen this guy Charles Amos. Have you seen him?
Charles Amos, no, but he does sound a little bit like an early motor racing driver or something.
He looks like an early motor racing driver. Like, just if you Google Charles Amos Talk TV, Google image search,
okay.
1970s Formula One driver is exactly what he looks like.
Okay, let's have a look. Talk TV. Images. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does look like that. But the thing is, if he works on Talk TV, I'm guessing he's a rightoid.
Oh, he's so right wing. He's so right wing. He made James Whale and Peter Cardwell mad.
Oh wow, that's incredible. Well, so
By how right wing he was.
So unfortunately, though, he doesn't look like one of those 1960s racing car drivers that went into the wall. But there you go.
Also, guess how. First, last one. Guess how old he is.
He's got to be at least 55.
He's 24.
No, obviously not.
Certificate.
Obviously not. There's no
No word of a lie.
Fuck no. There's no way. There's literally no fucking way in this world. No. Can we get a Wikipedia on that, please, people? I'm not having 24. Fuck off. I wasn't born yesterday.
You can Google it yourself. So, was it King's College London? I think he was at, where he got thrown out of the Conservative Society.
What for? Charles Amos. No, he was born in 1945.
There's a different Charles Amos.
Charles Amos. Oh, sorry, yeah, that's Charles Amos, a retired Guyanese boxer. So a different person. Okay, fair enough. Charles, I can't find a name for him or a date.
He's not on Wikipedia, but if you search Charles Amos and then King's College London or KCL, it should come up with an article.
Let's have a look. Charles Amos. This is fascinating stuff, by the way. Just me googling things that people can't see. Where are we? Presidency. Oh God. Oh, I can't see an exact date, but yeah, it does look like. Yeah, like he was at college not that long ago.
He's 24.
What the fuck? No. He looks like. Oh my God, he looks like the character from Friday Night Dinners, the next door neighbour.
It's exactly what we said. It's exactly.
He
what we
literally
said
looks like the guy with the dog. That he's scared of his own dog.
The Mark Heap character. Yeah, it's like Alan Statham from Green Wing.
Jesus. Honestly, I saw it and I thought he's got to be in his 50s. He's got to be in his 50s. Hang on, sorry, but that wasn't even on stream for my people. Fuck me. What was his... Got a minute. Hang on, I'll just get the fucking thing back up. 1 second. History, Charles Amos. Right. It's not a great picture, everyone, but you'll just have to fucking bear with me, I guess. There he is, right? Hang on, I'll share with your people too. So there he is, right? Front and centre. He looks like he's about 50, right? He's got to be in his 50s. Look at him. I mean, to be fair, he's got nice hair for a 50-year-old. But he could have just fermented it, so... But look... 24. It's like with these rioters. It must be the hatred, right? Because the amount of rioters that have come out and it's like, oh, this 27-year-old from Middlesbrough, and it's like, they look 60.
Oh yeah, like all of them, they look incredibly old.
Absolutely fucking mental.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what he was on Talk TV for? Why he was there? The first one was him getting mad that people were mad at him for supporting Labour and getting rid of the 2-child benefit cap, despite this guy being like full-on Tory. I'm sorry, the wood fuel payment. And then in that same conversation, he said we should get rid of the state pension. And they brought him back on again, where he said we should get rid of the old person's free bus pass, and said the genuine phrase, "I hate seeing buses full of old people knowing they're on there for free."
Well, you can always walk in front of it, mate. In Minecraft, of course. Yeah, fuck you. Like, literally, go fuck yourself, chap.
Yeah, he's an absolute ghoul. An absolute ghoul.
Like,
perfect
getting rid of...
though. Loads of people watch the video.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting fucking... getting that kind of... They wants to get rid of the pensioner. Like, he's like a Tory from the 1850s. What the fuck is wrong with you? Get rid of pension. Literally no one wants to get rid of pensions. Even the Tories at their most hideous don't want to get rid of pensions. Fuck me. So he looks like he's in his 50s and he looks like he's from the 1850s. Fucking hell. And he's 24. Really oh, this cunt's going to be around for 50 years. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh. God almighty, what a wanker.
He was so ridiculous. And again, it's not a meme, it's not a joke, he's not a character, he's not a Chris Morris bit. a genuine person. It was really funny to edit because I got to relive all of the hilarious moments that should never have happened and that should be parody but aren't. And this is funny. It was funny to edit.
Fair enough, yeah. Well, if you want to repay that hard work, everybody, and it is September, lest we forget, so multiple subs get you a discount on the Twitches. You can subscribe to either No Justice or myself. You can do bits messages. You can become a member on the YouTubes. You can do super chatty chats, which will only be read out if it's not rude by No Justice, but I will read it out only if it is rude. That's the difference.
Yes, if you've got a rude super chat, make sure you send it to Kev.
Yes, true. Very true. Oh yeah, that guy's definitely going to become an MP. He's probably going to be the Minister for Common Sense in the next Kemi Badenoch government. I dare say.
True. He's very Kemi Badenoch coded.
He really is. He really is. Fuck me. What a world to live in. On that point, I suppose, we're going to be looking at a little bit of, I say a little bit, quite a lot of stuff from Parliament over the last couple of days, because Parliament's back. It's very exciting.
Woo!
It's a different set. It's a different configuration of the same suited wankers fucking you over in exactly the same way. It's
and also
fun
fucking
times.
each other apparently.
Well, apparently so. Although I've less problems with that. That's fine, frankly. As long as it's consensual, which, let's be honest, given that the August Chambers example, it rarely is. So as long as it is consensual, that's a step up.
Get Kieran on the case.
Exactly, Kieran. There's a real paucity of anal sex news from number 10. That needs to change forthwith.
Speaking of news from number 10, it's not actually about sex, unfortunately. But did you know that Keir Starmer's staffers forgot his birthday?
I did, yeah. I called him Sibylle No Makes Casey. Yeah. Because that's basically... yeah. Oh, God almighty. No one likes him. No one likes him, do they? And it's understandable, really. He's a fucking gobshite.
Well, he's just shat on everyone else he could possibly shit on to get to where he is.
Yeah.
Just at the end of the day, the Labour, the entire Labour Party would be people who hate him, and then him, Morgan McSweeney, and Pat McFadden just on top of like a steaming pile of rubble.
Yeah, pretty much. So, where was I? Well, another number 10 related news. Did you see that? Hang on, where is it? Do I even have it? I'm not sure I do. Oh, that's very annoying. Anyway, number 10 is getting a new cat. Hang on, I'll just leave that there. Fuck it, that's appropriate. Yeah, number 10 is getting a new Persian cat. Firstly, Persian. That feels like woke
there you go.
virus.
Exactly. Well, if it's Persian, that shows exactly why we've suspended arms sales to Israel.
Exactly.
We've got another Iranian proxy in number 10.
Exactly. We've got another fucking. It's basically the feline arm of the Revolutionary Guard. That's what's taken hold in Downing Street. What about Larry? Well, Larry is on his last legs. Like, I don't want to preemptively get rid of Larry. Larry will always be there, but his physical corporeal form might not be for that much longer, unfortunately. So they need a new cat. Well, they don't really need a new cat, but it's a thing they do. Anyway, but what I want to know is if Keir Starmer's accepted this cat in to 10 Downing Street, what did it donate to the Labour Party? Because that's the only way you get into Keir Starmer's Downing Street. I don't know how much how much catnip it donated to the party or whatever, but
exactly, it's literally like we're at the point where we've got number 10 passes, not just for Labour members of the House of Lords, but for Iranian proxy cats. This Keir Starmer's a danger to democracy.
He really is. He really is. Old two-tier Keir, getting rid of good British cats and bringing in foreign cats. Stop the cats! Stop the cats! Anyway, so that's a thing that's happening. So, yeah, the Tory leadership is so shit. They're just the dregs of humanity, aren't they? In every conceivable way.
They really are.
But what I've especially liked is the silliness around it. Because, frankly, in terms of policy, they're all going to be wankers. We know that. When fucking Tom Tugendhat, who basically, if you just isolated the opinions he's given during this election, sounds like a fascist. He's the moderate.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
that's the direction they're going in right now, right?
The other moderate is James Cleverly, and his like pièce de résistance in terms of policy is that he's going to be the champion of the Rwanda plan. He's going to bring back. That's his moderate position, by the way.
Yeah, which on ultimately we know you said it was bullshit anyway, or batshit.
Even literally, he called it batshit. He didn't think that it was like theoretically unworkable or racist and kind of subhuman because that's what it is. No. His contention with it was that it was fucking insane.
Yeah, exactly. Which of course it is, and we know it is, and it's stupid, and literally made no impact, and it's made no impact now it's gone. It's
Yep.
Anyway, so that's all sort of happening, and it's so to one degree or another they're all going to be racist, and to one degree or another they're all going to lead into the culture war stuff. But I have enjoyed some of the bits sort of around it, some of the sillier bits. This one got me. This is from an image from the Tom Tugendhat launch, where he had his face printed on some M&Ms.
As you do. It reminds me of when Rishi Sunak, during the Tory leadership one, gave out goodie boxes, which had like a Twix, one of those 150ml cans of Sprite, and a little note that said "Ready for Rishi." And I was like, I mean, if you remember the mainstream media, and you can get bought out by a multi-millionaire, the richest man in Parliament, off the back of fucking a multi-pack can of Sprite not to be sold separately, then you're pathetic.
Also, that weird selection of things is so unbelievably Alan Partridge coded. Like, it's literally, it's that thing where he goes, you've got a Mars bar, a copy of the Times, oh, it's a good paper. Like, it literally is, he's Alan Partridge. He really is.
It's also, like, it also could have been a chocolate orange with superficial damage to the box as well. Exactly. which are available at Rawlinson's.
They are. I'm not driving a mini metro. I'm not. Anyway, so
start it, Len. I'll just talk over you.
You're never going to meet Benjamin Netanyahu. It's a weird phrase given the modern context of that, but I'll just leave it hanging. You either get the reference or you fucking don't. Anyway, but yeah, I saw this and I thought I've never been put off by a sweet food more than this particular thing, because I've never wanted any part of Tom Tugendhat inside me, ever, and I would starve before eating this. I think. It's just weird.
Same.
Very strange. Oh God, Nadeem Zahawi, not technically running for leader, but just instead of helping the homeless person, took a picture for clout. As you do. I mean, they're just evil. They're just genuinely evil.
And it's funny as well. He goes, well, this is Mayfair. Just walk past. What is going on, Mayor of London? This can't be right. You guys fucked the housing market with your monetary policy for the last 14 years. I don't think Sadiq Khan can be blamed for the very specific housing problem in London.
Yeah. Also, is it just because it's Mayfair? This kind of riffraff can't be allowed in Mayfair?
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck him off to Stoke Newington, where they belong. Is that what he means? I don't know. Honestly, Kemi Badenoch is fucking insane. Again, this was from her campaign, printed out. Room temperature Coke Zero. Have you ever heard a more genuinely fucking insane and psychotic 4 words in your life?
She specifically requested this.
Yeah. Room temperature Coke Zero. Not even Diet Coke, Coke Zero. Like, honestly, this person needs to be locked in a padded room and just left there forever. For everyone's good, including her own. She's a fucking danger. That is, honestly, I'd be less freaked out if she'd come out with a collection of human hands. It would be less weird than this. I
mean, that's the thing about Kemi Badenoch, is she's kind of just neurotic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely.
She's completely neurotic.
If she hadn't gone into politics, she'd have gone into serial killing or something. Yeah, 100%. Oh, Tom Tugendhat foam hands. If someone can get hold of one for me, please don't. Just don't. Not interested.
I kind of want one. It'd be very funny.
Also,
like Genrick as well. Like he thinks he's Barack Obama.
Well, I think he's trying to pitch himself more as... Well, he's definitely American. For anyone, Americans watching think, that's it, this just looks like a normal scene. This is mental and weird and fucked up, okay? This is not British politics. Dickheads sat behind them with generic t-shirts, including one, and I swear to God, right? Not one, sorry, several of them had hats, baseball caps that read, "We want Bobby J."
We want Bobby J.
We want Bobby J.
The leader of this here Conservative Party.
But I think we should take his fucking passport off him. What the fuck is this? Is
house arrest? Immediately
house arrest. This is treason. What the fuck is this? Oh my God! What a clown!
Someone's literally come wearing a gilet.
Fucking mad shit. And then and then they wonder. Yeah, go on. Sorry, go on.
Just before we move on from like the American political comparisons, right? Do you know? You can't escape it. These guys are weird.
They are weird. They are very weird.
It's just very weird.
You've preempted it. So who's Bobby J? Sorry, for those who don't know, and why would you, even if you're British, this person is called Robert Jenrick. That's his name.
MP for Newark.
Yes, so that's Bobby J, which is like the least British thing I've ever heard. Honestly, it's like he was teabagging the Queen or something. It's just weird.
That's the thing, bro. They keep kind of pitching themselves as like the savior of Britain as a country, being kind of British nationalists essentially. And I'm like, but all you just wish you were American.
Yeah.
If anything, like, well, there's one thing that most British people agree on in this country.
Yeah.
One of the things that British people most agree on in this country is that we fucking hate not only the Americans generally, but the Americanization of Britain.
Well, there goes half my audience. See you later. Bye. Yeah. No,
but I mean,
I know what you mean.
Your American audience hate America as well. I mean, they have to live there.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
They have to deal with the shitty healthcare and the gun violence and the hyper capitalism that these people want to import over here.
Yeah, basically, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what they want. Yeah, but you preempted me by saying weird, because they're surprised when they then get this headline: voters deliver brutal one-word verdict as Tory leadership rivals clash. A focus group of former Tory voters found 70% either didn't know or thought none of the candidates could win the next election, as researchers warn voters are starting to find the Conservatives weird.
They are again. They just. In the entirety of the run-up to the election, every single Conservative panellist they brought on Politics Live spent the entire time going, oh, well, if we just deal with the critical race theorists to win the election, or if we just trying to focus on the trans culture like Lee Anderson did, we'll talk about trans people, that'll win us the election. Or Jonathan Gullis saying, well, if we actually get the planes off to Rwanda, we'll win the election. Obviously, this was all bollocks, because all it did was make them look completely out of touch with the median voter who wanted a functioning NHS and the school roofs not to collapse. And obviously, those were both the Conservative Party's fault.
Yeah. Well, but I'll tell you what they definitely do want. They want someone who's going to be tough on Doctor Who.
True, they do. They do want to be tough on Doctor Who.
This person, Americans, I promise you this is real. This is not a bit that a comedian put together. This is not like a skit. I haven't edited this together. This is literally Kemi Badenoch, one of the front runners to be Conservative Party leader, with her pitch for why she should be leader of the most successful party in Western democracy.
Until we wake up and Kemi Badenoch doesn't exist anymore, I don't wish ill of her, I just wish her to shut up.
No, I will not shut up. When you have that type of cultural establishment trying to keep Conservatives down, you need someone like me who's not afraid of Doctor Who or whoever. And
okay, Kemi. Not afraid of Doctor Who or whoever. I don't give a fuck about your opinions about Doctor Who. No one is electing you to be Prime Minister of tackling Doctor Who. What the fuck? Honestly, I at least some other things are wedge issues. The culture war is supposed to be a wedge issue. No one dislikes David Tennant. No one dislikes Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's like a plus 50-point approval rating.
Yeah, like everyone loves him. He's the nicest little man in the world. Honestly, I want to carry him around in my pocket and he can just cheer me up with his good vibes. It's awesome. And you're like, no, I'm setting myself dead against this man and this beloved cultural establishment of Dr. fucking Who. which was like a cultural part of the furniture before you were fucking born. Like, what is this? What is this pitch? Who are you appealing to here? It's you know what? You do you, I guess. Make her leader. You've got no fucking chance, lads.
And who's going to take...
Well, it's likely that she'll win as well, because
It's very possible.
The Conservative membership are just as brain broken as she is.
Exactly. Look at the people they've elected into office. Consistently, just the dregs of humanity. Rishi Sunak, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, just awful garbage people.
No, that's the thing as well, is that, I mean, Aaron Bastani made this point on last night's Novara. Specific, like, does she even want to be Prime Minister? Like, why is she positioning her political career, her mainstream political career, around beef she's had on Twitter?
Well, exactly, yeah. Well, I don't really know. I presume because that's where the culture war actually has an impact. So if your culture war brain broken, like Kemi Badenoch is, and like so many of Conservatives are, they just think, oh, well, you just do the thing that the internet likes. But of course, we've seen that consistently now. If you just go by what the internet says, Ron Paul would have been president. Jeremy Corbyn would have won a fucking landslide. Like, these are just true things, right? And by the way, I'm not suggesting that Ron Paul and Jeremy Corbyn appeal to the same people. I'm suggesting that just because you have a significant loud following on the internet does not necessarily translate in the real world. And just because some people on the internet don't like David Tennant and don't like Doctor Who and the culture war, blah blah blah.
Well, have you not? Whoa, Kev, are you trying to say that the user base of Mumsnet is not a broader kind of a microcosm of the wider electorate?
I don't think Prosecco Stormfront are really a particularly good analogy for the rest of the nation. No, they're not. They're not an interesting cross section. They're what I like to call mould, because they've given into the mould. I've come to that conclusion. It's clearly the case with a certain wizard bitch, and I think it's probably the same for most of them. I think it's the spores that they get into the cracks in the brain and make it smooth. I think that's how it works. Anyway.
True. I mean, to be fair, my favourite Kemi Badenoch story isn't this. It isn't the fact that she hacked Harriet Harman's website illegally and admitted to it because it was funny for her. But my favourite part about this is that she literally admitted in an interview with The Telegraph that she wasn't really political, but she became a conservative because she got annoyed by woke people at university. That's literally it. And it's literally, she's doing the meme of the, like, how were you radicalized? And people from, like, the bottom and top left, it was, well, I couldn't afford health care or to buy a house or to be able to have children. And for the people on the top right and bottom right, it was 2016 SJW cringe compilation.
Yeah, basically.
On YouTube.
Yeah. Fucking Trigglypuff made me want to do a fascism. Basically, yeah. Unbelievable shit. We'll watch the last 15 seconds, but I mean, we've had the punchline, I guess.
Yeah.
To fight to them and not let them try and keep us down. That's not going to happen with me.
No one cares.
Then just try and have it like.
And also, it's not Badenoch, it's Badenoch. There's no bad in my name. I just want people to.
No, you are bad, Enoch. Yeah.
Enoch, it's true. It's true. Do you know she gets mad when you say that? So I'm definitely going to say that even more.
Yeah,
I know
course.
she gets mad because she said it in her interview with the Daily Telegraph. So I'm going to keep calling her bad Enoch forever.
Yeah.
But again, I love how she had this kind of this weird, like this intense stuff in the background, like join me at 11 a.m. tomorrow on this date. For what? For you to go mad about fucking David Tennant? You are insane. You're out of your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Also, the fact that she gets annoyed about being called Bad Enoch has some real Eve Fartlow power to it. There's a real energy of Fartlow. Just what?
True.
When someone calls you a name, if it annoys you, the last thing you ever do is let people be aware that you're annoyed at that.
Yeah.
You just go with it and it dies. It's ridiculous. Anyway, but also what I just want to say is, she launched her campaign and it was broadcast on Twitter. On X, as she says there.
Well, there you go. It's just proving what we were saying 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. But it's so funny to me because every single political launch I've ever seen on Twitch has been dog shit and the campaign has crashed and burned. So go for it, I guess. Yeah, we'll see how that works out. It worked out brilliantly for Donald Trump, who's tanked in the polls. Worked out fantastically for Ron DeSantis.
Pudding fingers.
Oh, fucking pudding bitch. Yeah, he was incredible. Yeah, it worked fantastically for what's his name? It rhymes with cake. Vivek Ramaswamy, who was overheard pissing very loudly on one particular hangout. Brilliant. I mean, just excellent work. You incinerate yourselves. Bravo. What else do we have? Oh yeah, so we'll get into some stuff from Parliament in a second, but just this little doozy. Lee Anderson, former Conservative MP, now an MP for the Reform Party.
I'm previous Labour Party councillor as well. The guy's been around the houses a bit.
Well, look, we don't party slut shame, okay? You can be as many parties as you like. That's the modern world.
Yeah, it only shows right-wing ones.
Well, very much so. Anyway, he's got a very important question that's on the tip of everyone's tongue.
Mr. Speaker, could the Secretary of State please explain to me and the House what the government's definition of Islamophobia actually is? State.
He wants to know what Islamophobia is. I mean, firstly, look in the mirror. Secondly, if you're going to stop every time there's a word used that you don't understand, Lee, Parliament's not going to be able to get anything done. Because you're just going to be standing up every 10 seconds. Can the Minister, can you explain what you mean by energy? What is energy? What is oil? Coal? What is that? What do you mean?
Is he trying to be like this Jordan Peterson character now? Well, what do you mean by God? And what do you mean by does? And what do you mean by exist?
Exactly. Ridiculous. But then Angela Rayner doesn't help herself because she gives the most politician-y answer ever.
Well, I say to the honourable member that a new definition must be given careful consideration so that it comprehensively reflects multiple perspectives and considers potential implications for different communities. And we're actively considering our approach to Islamophobia, including definitions, and we'll provide further updates on this in due course.
That's just Parliament babble. Just say it's like it's the hatred of Muslims or whatever. You know?
But when you hate Muslims or you're prejudicial against Muslims, it's as simple as that. Like,
it's anti-Muslim bigotry. Yeah. Very simple, very simple. But no, she went and went round the fucking ring to avoid answering the question for some fucking reason. I don't know. Anyway,
I mean, because I guess they're probably scared that people might point out that Islamophobic is what the Labour Party is.
Probably, yeah. They don't want to fall into the trap of revealing themselves. Yeah.
If I say a definition that at some point somebody might hold our party to because of all the institutionally Islamophobic things that we've done, that might look bad.
True. Oh, thank you, Ellie. Yeah, she's getting the Dalek vote. She is. She's very much going for the Dalek vote, and the thing is, they do vote as a bloc. They are very, very similar in thought. The Daleks, the reliable voting bloc. They're actually perfect conservatives. They just do what they're told, and that's it.
Yep.
Anyway, we've got so many things we could watch. Do we want to watch the Ukraine urgent question? Do we want to watch the Middle East urgent question, which is Britain selling 2 fewer guns, I think, or maybe 3 fewer guns to Israel? Nice. The violent disorder, so that's the race riots questions. Or there was a statement on it, which could be quite interesting.
Well, shall we go with the Middle East, because then we get our good part of the Hitler action.
Yes, and I think this is the Persian cat thing paying off. Oh god, I have to sign into the fucking BBC iPlayer. God damn it. Yes, save my password, for fuck's sake. Yes, I've got a fucking...
Right, we now come to the Middle East oral statement.
Oh, Lindsay Hoyle, be still my beating heart.
Foreign Secretary David Lammy.
Well, with permission, Mr. Speaker, I will make a statement on the Middle East. On taking office in July, I told this House that this government's priority in the region would be to advance the cause of peace and this continues to be our mission on every front. In Israel...
Is that why you continue to sell weapons to all of the repressive regimes of the region? Is that how you ensure peace?
It was interesting. I actually got called out today by a journalist from Times Radio.
Ooh.
He said, I asked John Healey why they wouldn't suspend arms sales to Saudi Arabia in the same way. And I quote tweeted it with pictures of Theresa May agreeing to send arms and Jeremy Corbyn opposing it, saying like, well, A, wasn't it nice when we had a Labour Party led by somebody who had a consistent position on these things? And B, why did people like Stig never bother calling out Theresa May or the Conservative Party when they restarted arms licences? And he responded saying, well, actually, I've always said that we should be removing arms licences. And it's true. He had always said we should remove arms licences to Saudi Arabia. That makes one mainstream media journalist who makes a point of saying that maybe arming totalitarian regimes that break international law is a bad thing.
Okay, but
apparently they only say it when bad Arabs do it. Though.
Well, true, but also it'd be interesting to see that particular journalist's voting record. Not that such a thing exists as such, but if he were to reveal it to us, because I've gotten to the point in my life where I don't give a fuck particularly what people say anymore. You can claim to oppose this, that, and the other. You can claim to support anything you like. How do you actually vote? How do you fundamentally try and implement that? Because if you're going to say, I hold my hands up and I say, fuck Saudi Arabia, we should never sell them a single bullet ever again. And then you vote for politicians who are like, yay, let's sell Saudi Arabia nuclear weapons. Look, I don't give a fuck. Your principle means nothing. Your word means nothing. And I would guess he's supported all the same conservative leaders who've continued to arm all of these regimes. Happy to stand by and watch Saudi Arabia fucking obliterate Yemen. And then wonder why the Yemenis might stand up and attack a few boats.
What's that? Western interventionism in league with Western-aligned dictatorships in the Middle East have caused more political instability than the interventionism sought to quell? I don't believe you.
That's freedom and democracy, I think you'll find. You're welcome, Muslimics.
In the West Bank, in Lebanon, in the Red Sea, and of course in Gaza, where we need an immediate ceasefire, the protection of civilians, the immediate release of all hostages, and more aid getting into Gaza.
Does that include the hostages that Israel are keeping? Those ones? Is that included? Because they've got lots of hostages, children hostages.
Yes, indeed. No. They're not from the Gaza region. Therefore, it's just sparkling administrative detention.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Over the summer, we were faced with the prospect of full-scale war breaking out between Lebanese Hezbollah and Israel. On each of the 3 visits I've made to the region, including alongside my right honourable friend, the Defence Secretary, and most recently a joint visit with the French Foreign Minister Ségoné, I have urged Lebanese Hezbollah, the Lebanese government, and Israel to engage with the US-led discussions to resolve their disagreements diplomatically and to reach a peaceful resolution through the implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. And as we continue to work with our allies and partners to push for a diplomatic solution, we nonetheless stand ready for the worst-case scenario, including the potential evacuation of British nationals. And our message to those still in Lebanon remains clear.
Well, the British nationals that haven't been killed by Israel already. Of course.
Or any like charity workers, perhaps, maybe.
Yeah. The whose position is that the British government are supposed to protect them, even when they're abroad, and have done no such thing whatsoever. Now under 2 different governments. Awesome.
Leave now. Mr. Speaker, our common goal of peace in the Middle East will never be lasting until there is safety, security and sovereignty for both Israel and a Palestinian state.
But only when Netanyahu says so.
At the forefront of our minds, the pain, the anguish, the horror that this conflict has caused for so many ordinary civilians. The victims of the October the 7th atrocity, the hostages, and all those still enduring unimaginable suffering, whether they're hoping...
At what point? Because there will have to be a point, surely, at some point in between now and the end of time. Do you think it would be possible for an elected leader in a Western country to mention anything to do with Israel without, like, dick-riding October 7th?
It'll never happen again. We'll literally be here, and the state of Israel won't exist anymore. It'll be some part of some grander American empire, or it'll have been invaded by Russia or something. I don't know. Whichever expansionary power from the West or the East engulfs the areas of the Middle East in some future World War IV. And you'll still have, like, an unborn Miliband talking about how much he condemns Hamas.
Yeah. Yeah, the Hamas atrocities of October the 7th. Eventually, they'll have to start using the year, because we're about to hit the new October 7th. So they'll have to start saying October 7th, 2023, specifically.
Yeah.
To see their loved ones again, or mourning their loss, as the tragic events of this weekend illustrate, as the bodies of 6 murdered hostages were recovered. The Israeli people still living under rocket fire, not only from Hamas, but from other hostile actors explicitly dedicated to Israel's annihilation, fighting an enemy in Hamas whose appalling tactics endanger countless civilian lives. And the innocent Palestinians, tens of thousands killed in the fighting, their numbers growing by the day, including distressing numbers of women and children, many mothers so malnourished they cannot produce milk for their babies, families struggling to keep their children alive, disease and...
Wow, are you saying that conditions of life have been inflicted on them so as to make life difficult or impossible? Is that what you're suggesting, Mr.
The destruction of the group, or in whole or in part, perhaps.
Based entirely upon a geographic and ethnic line. That's interesting. I wonder if there's an international law term that could be used to describe that series of events.
One might wonder whether we might be able to invoke some kind of convention to ensure that something like that doesn't get prevented.
Yeah, it's genocide.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Baz, for the £5 super chat, and thank you, Sergey, for the 10 gifted.
Love.
Famine looming ever larger. Heroic humanitarians putting their lives on the line to help others, like the brave aid workers I met from the United Nations agencies and from the Palestinian Red Crescent Society warehouse I visited alongside France's foreign minister last month. Indeed, last Thursday, the UK led a session at the United Nations Security Council encouraging a continued global focus on the protection of civilians in Gaza, including the need for action on polio. And now, deeply worrying, the escalation we're seeing in the West Bank as well as in Gaza, with many communities facing settler violence amid an ongoing occupation.
Why is the settler violence? Why isn't the Israeli government doing anything about the settler violence?
Yeah, there's an occupation, is there, David? There's an occupation. Wow. Honestly, I've been paying attention to UK politics for a very long time. I've never heard about this occupation before. How weird. Isn't it weird how suddenly there's this whole occupation that we should be worried about? It's almost like it sprang up overnight. Yeah, it can't have been there for the last 50 years, because if it had been there for the last 50 years, someone might have mentioned it, and the breaking of international law that would entail.
No, you're forgetting. History began on October the 7th, 2023.
True.
That's literally
Indeed, Middle East history started in there. European history started in 2016.
Yes.
Absolutely.
British history started in 2012. Fact.
True, with the Olympics, the best time ever.
Literally.
We're going to change the Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar is going to be changed from AO to BO.
Before Olympics. Yeah.
True.
The Olympian calendar. Let's go.
Many on either side of this terrible conflict convinced that the world does not grasp the reality of Israel's predicament or the depth of Palestinian suffering. Throughout my life, I have been a friend of Israel, a liberal, progressive Zionist who believes in Israel as a democratic state.
Yes, we know you're a cunt. We know. We're already well aware of that, David. Thank you.
And a homeland for the Jewish people, which has both the right to exist and defend itself. But I believe also that Israel will only exist in safety and security if there is a two-state solution that guarantees the rights of all Israeli citizens and their Palestinian neighbours who have their own inalienable right to self-determination and security.
But only when Netanyahu says so.
I was about to say, it does appear that it's being alienated, though, like quite badly right now. So maybe if it's unalienable, you should stop the aliening of it.
Yeah, that's what's frustrating about this, is that we all talk about the breaking of international law during the conflict, and I'm like, okay, obviously, clearly they've done war crimes. They've been trying to. There's literally people trying to settle Gaza right now, planting trees and shit, trying to make the fruitful future for themselves in what was previously Palestinian land in the Gaza Strip. Yes. That's happening right now. But again, for the last 50 years, they've been trying to. They've been occupiers, of course, of the West Bank. They've been illegally annexing territory, illegal settlements, illegal outposts, even under Israeli law. The outposts are illegal. All of these things have happened. We've still given them diplomatic cover. Yep. We've still sold them arms. The arms that they will then use as the IOF not just maintains the occupation, but intensifies the occupation, annexes more territory, and maintains a designated by the ICJ apartheid state with its control of the checkpoints, using arms that we sell them.
Yep.
Why is this the red line? Why is fucking ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip? We've decided that's the line for 10% of arms sales to start.
Yeah, I was about to say,
why?
For virtually nothing, yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Why have we got to get to this point when we should have broken off all democratic ties when they were illegally occupying the West Bank and Gaza for the decades before now? This is a fly in the ointment in comparison to the decades of occupation.
Yeah, and you can tell the cry bully bullshit from Israel as well, because it's like this is going to make no impact on them whatsoever, and yet they're still acting like Britain has joined Hamas. Like, fuck you. Anyway, the thing that annoys me most about the diplomatic cover is at least America has the balls to just be like, no, Israel can do no wrong. We will just deny you anything at the Security Council. Which then gives Britain the cover to go, we abstained. You fucking little wimp. You pathetic little creep. Like, own your shit. You're an evil cunt being evil. Do the evil thing. Stop pretending that you give a fuck or that you have a backbone or any semblance of humanitarianism or principle to you, because you fucking don't. You're just spineless.
Exactly. There's a debate with James O'Brien with some pro-Zionist caller, which is definitely worth watching at some point afterwards. We've done a bunch of the Parliament stuff, and it's just like the minds of these people to the things that they will justify. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy. But again, like, we should have been far more hawkish on what's been happening.
Yeah.
Long before now.
Absolutely.
But we can't. We can't even do that now, at the time when we can only give this kind of mealy-mouthed support of an eventual Palestinian state at some point in the future, once Israel's happy with it, which will be never, because they don't believe in one.
Yeah.
And like that, we always say this because we never can say that any time before now Israel was at fault for the annexations of the West Bank and these settlements, the legal settlements, because then we would essentially be saying, well, actually, we've been complicit for half a century, because we have been.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Flint, for the super chat. I will keep dancing like no one's watching. Thank you.
Also, sorry, one sec. Horrifying thing.
I just want to say thank you, Phil, for the 10 gifted, and Russell Hawkins for the new membership. That's very much appreciated.
In Gaza has risen. Many in this house, as well as esteemed lawyers and international organisations, have raised British arms export licensing to Israel. After raising my own concerns from opposition on taking office, I immediately sought to update the review. And on my first appearance as Foreign Secretary in this House, I committed to sharing the review's conclusions. We have rigorously followed every stage of the process which the previous Conservative government established. And
you've hidden over and pretended like it wasn't a genocide that was taking place. Yeah, we know, because you're a prick.
Yeah, like we all knew. We all heard the leaked recording of Alicia Kearns. This has been a very long time coming, clearly. Yeah. We all knew that it was going to happen eventually, because it was going to have to be. Why have you twiddled your thumbs over this? And the twiddling of the thumbs has led us to what? 8% of arms shipments being suspended. This is, again, all it is gesture. It's fucking virtue signaling. That's what it is.
It's honestly,
it's not a real position.
It's the ultimate Keir Starmer position. Doing nothing with some fanfare to no effect.
Yeah.
Just hollow, empty, tinkering at the edges bullshit.
But it also, to be fair, it does show you just how much of an absolute lunatic that Benjamin Netanyahu is. He was pissing blood.
Yeah.
He was mad about very, very small amounts of arms shipments being removed. But then again, it was performative. Like, the people, especially from the Netanyahu's wing of the Israeli government, will only listen to hard power, not words. You can't call him up and say, this is a Holocaust, Menachem. You can't do that like Reagan could in the 1980s. You can't do it. He will only listen to people who actually take material action against what they're doing. But of course, 8% isn't true material action. It's basically nothing.
True. Thank you, Flynn. Yes, peace in our time indeed.
Let me first be clear on the review's scope. This government is not an international court. We have not and could not arbitrate.
No, but it is being run by a former human rights lawyer. So, yeah, I mean, that might have some bearing on it, maybe. You think he'd see some of the signs of the genocide, maybe, you know?
On whether or not Israel has breached international humanitarian law. This is a forward-looking evaluation, not a determination of innocence or guilt, and it does not prejudge any future determinations by the competent courts.
I know he has to, for legal reasons, he has to do this bit, but it does mean that. It does mean that you know that there's a genocide taking place, which is why you're starting to back off very slowly, but it just means that you're further complicit, because you're essentially revealing that you know, and we know that you know, and yet you're still selling them 92% of the weapons they were going to get anyway. So, like, it's arguably sort of worse from a moral point of view.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Because I was watching Lomabox talk about this earlier today, and I was frustrated because his point was like, well, okay, well, if you think that Israel has a right to defend itself, then you know what's going to happen to it, to all of the hostile forces if we stop sending the weapons. Like, I mean, of course, we only sell 1%, but if America stopped, for example, the American audience saying, if America stopped, that would mean 70% of Israel's weapons would go. And I'm like, tough. You want to protect your country's existence, follow international law. People won't stop sending you arms if you follow international law. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I'm fine with a country not doing a genocide defending itself. But I don't think you get to do a genocide and then go like, play fair, lads. Play by the rules, will you?
Look, it's super simple. Like, international law it doesn't say international law unless it's my friends violating it. No. Yeah. They violate international law, you stop the arms shipments. It's as simple as that. If they feel like they're existentially at threat from the Houthis and from Hezbollah and from Hamas or from Tanzim or the Lion's Den or whatever militant group they think that their country is at existential risk from, obviously I don't care if Israel as a country gets dissolved and replaced by a single secular democracy, but that's my position, right? There are plenty of people who want Israel to be able to defend itself as the Jewish state in the region, right? I disagree, but that's their point of view. But what they can't have a point of view on is whether or not international law has been broken or not. It has been broken, and the law says you stop selling them weapons. It's as simple as that. If they want to maintain their nation state in the way that they want it to do so, stop breaking the fucking law. Simple.
But facing a conflict such as this,
like,
it is.
Put it into a different perspective for the neocons. North Korea has a right to defend itself too.
Yep.
Iran has a right to defend itself. Venezuela
whoa. Iran has a right to defend itself. I think you'll find it was an unprecedented attack on military targets when they were attacked by Israel, who violated the Vienna Conventions by attacking a non-military target. Isn't that weird? Again, how it was. There's all this kind of filibustering over the potential for Israel to have been allowed to attack a consulate when the IRGC had members in there for a meeting. But it was absolutely outrageous for Iran, having been given casus belli, to attack against Israel with a flurry of munitions against explicitly military targets. Even the American State Department admitted that they only attacked a Nevatim airbase, which is a military target, which they have every right to do under international law, when attacking a consulate is a violation of international law. When Israel can't even do better than fucking Iran at maintaining commitments to international rules-based order, like, it's fucked up. Like, it's done.
Yeah.
It's over.
Indeed. That wasn't going to be my point, though, but good point. My point was, all of these countries, even ones you don't like, have a right to defend themselves. They have sovereignty and they have territorial integrity. They are allowed to defend themselves. Would you be okay with Britain selling Kim Jong-un weapons? Would you be okay with us selling the Ayatollah weapons? I suspect Americans would not be happy with us doing that.
100%, exactly. For the same reasons, exactly the same reasons. I would not want to sell them weapons in the same way I wouldn't want to sell Israel weapons.
Exactly.
In fact, let's bring it even closer to home. Right. Israel does not have any right under international to defend itself from people resisting occupation under international law. Yeah. It does not do that. It has a right to protect its own citizens from terror, but it doesn't have any right to be able to continue with the administration of an illegal occupation, of which, obviously Hamas targeted civilians on October 7th. Did the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine? No, they attack military targets. They have a right to defend themselves when they're trying to administer a belligerent occupation. Does that mean that we should be selling the PFLP weapons?
Indeed.
Does that mean we should be selling them weapons? Should we be doing that? Because they're the ones engaging in legitimate military action against an occupying army? No? Or well, maybe it isn't actually about whether people are in accordance with international law, and really it's just about who our mates are.
Yeah.
It is this government's legal duty to review export licenses. Criteria 2C of the Strategic Export Licensing Criteria states that the government will not export licenses.
Another parallel that we might want to draw is that, of course, the justification for Israel's illegal attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria was because, Iran are technically part of the conflict because they fund Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas as proxies against Israel. I'm like, okay, that's your justification for the illegal attack on a consulate again, in violation of the Vienna Conventions. So, by that same logic, Palestinian resistance factions should be able to bomb the American consulate in Israel because they fund Israel as a proxy in the region. That's what that logic states. I disagree with both. You should never attack consulates. It's against the Vienna Convention. But if you follow that logic down the same line of, well, this person's technically part of the conflict because they fund a proxy in the region, then it gives the PFLP or Tanzim or whatever just as much of a right to attack the American consulate as Israel does to have to attack Iran's consulate. When, of course, the truth is neither. Neither has any of those rights to attack a protected building under the Vienna Convention.
Indeed. Also, just as a little aside, not necessarily Israel related, but more arms industry related. Did you know about the Export Credits Guarantee Department? Is that a thing you were aware of? It's not.
Is that the one that the comedian was talking about? How we the taxpayer indemnifies arms sales?
Indeed, so yes. Mark Thomas talked about it a long time ago. It's still a thing that happens right now. The numbers are slightly wrong because this is a slightly older version of it. But basically, the British taxpayer underwrites to the tune of billions of pounds every year arms sales. For instance, if you're an arms manufacturer and you sell weapons to shady third world country X, or indeed the social media company X, I guess, and the country goes bump, or there's a coup that overthrows that leader and the new lot don't want to pay it, the British taxpayer picks up 95% of the debt owed. So literally, if you sell weapons to the shadiest, most evil dictators in the world, you financially cannot lose.
I remember the clip because the clip specifically stated that our biggest indemnifications were for defaulted payments from the Hashemite monarchy in Jordan and Algeria.
Yep, literally true. Again, it just goes to show you, there's nothing capitalists hate more than an actually free market. They don't want losers in this situation. Well, except the people on the ground. Silly people. No, they want, if they've invested money in arms sales, they want to be guaranteed profit at our expense.
Yep.
So, even if there were a moral right to defend X, Y, and Z, the way we do the arms industry in Britain is reprehensible on every conceivable level.
It is indeed. Also, thank you, Dominic Jones, for the 5 gifts. I'd appreciate the support.
If there is a clear risk that the items might be used to commit or facilitate serious violations of international humanitarian law. It is with regret that I inform the House today the assessment I have received leaves me unable to conclude anything other than that for certain UK arms exports to Israel, there does exist a clear risk that they might be used to commit or facilitate a serious violation of international humanitarian law.
Okay, but what about the components for the planes that are dropping the bombs on people? You haven't stopped those. Are you suggesting that bombing hospitals is fine under international law? Because it fucking isn't. We know it isn't.
Nope. Clearly is not.
They've targeted fucking United Nations buildings. They've
United
specifically gone
Nations
in,
charity workers.
Indeed. They've gone in specifically targeted journalists. Which again is not a new thing for Israel. Israel has consistently targeted journalists. These are all, I mean, just foundational concepts in international law. You can't do this shit. And yes, Brianna, Miss Wu, even if it is a war, you still can't fucking do it.
Yeah, like it's so weird how her defense of ethnic cleansing of the Nakba was, it's a war, sometimes ethnic cleansing happens. And I'm like, what?
Like,
excuse me?
Literally, couldn't the Nazis do the same fucking thing? Couldn't they use exactly the same rationale to excuse why they're fucking evil? Well, there was a war going on. Of course we had to set up camps. Like, I mean, it's just despicable.
I think everyone agrees that the Nazis were on the wrong. Most 99% of people agree that the Nazis were on the wrong side during the Second World War. But if we take the Second World War and take somebody,
but it was a war. It was a war.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think that she's trying to say, well, even the good guys, the good guys can do a bad thing, but sometimes that's just the inevitable result, right? But let's take a party during the Second World War who was incontrovertibly on the right side, which was the Yugoslav partisans. At the end of the war, a bunch of the fleeing fascists were caught up in a bunch of fleeing civilians of the fascist nation, trying to flee the partisan rampage through the independent Nazi puppet state of Croatia at the time. And when they got to the Austrian border, they were repatriated by the British armed forces saying, nope, you are the partisans' problem, go back to Croatia. And so they did this march, right? And what the partisans did is they killed them all. Yeah. They killed all of them because they thought, well, we don't know we don't know who was a fascist and who isn't, who was operating the worst concentration camps, the worst extermination camps in the whole of Europe, which were all in Croatia, and they killed them all.
Yes,
this is bad. You shouldn't do mass executions, right? But these things sometimes happen in war. Doesn't make that okay. It shouldn't have happened. It was bad. But Brianna, we can't even admit that it was bad that the ethnic cleansing happened.
Yeah,
can't even admit it.
Also. Yeah, we get it. You like Tito. Chill. We get it. But we get that.
I think that this is. I mean, there isn't many bad things that you can. I mean, there are plenty of bad things that the Allies did that were kind of.
I'm only playing.
I just couldn't think of anything specific the Allies did that was which is as reprehensible as mass ethnic cleansing. To be honest.
Yeah. I mean, some of the bombings towards the end of the war were just sort of murdery, really. But, I mean, yeah, it's not the same, really, no.
I mean, I think, because even, like, Dresden gets overhyped, I think, in terms of how bad it was.
Dresden was, okay, hot history take. The bombing of Dresden was actually fine. It was done in a poor way, and it was poorly timed, but actually it was a fucking transportation hub. Perfectly justified military target. Not nice, not saying it's nice, but that's in the situation where bad things happening in a war is just the war. That's what happens. Unfortunately, civilians get caught up in that shit. Everyone goes on about it because it had nice buildings. Oh, it had some nice old building. Well, okay, but it's also a fucking Nazi transport hub. Fuck them.
Yeah. Like the German far right to this day still get mad about Dresden, about what they did to our great nation. I'm like, well, unfortunately, yeah, like it was as you say, it was a place that the Nazis used to ship in arms. And
partly the problem, of course, is that it's sort of seeped into popular culture now. The novel Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, where he talks about being a prisoner in a basement in Dresden, and he gives, I forget, some absurd number, which was like Nazi propaganda that they put out there, and he didn't know any better, so he just put it in the fucking book. He didn't really know. And now people still to this day will quote that same passage from the book as if it's literally historical fact, and it's not. Lots of people did die. A beautiful old city did burn to the fucking ground. Not ideal. But also, you know, it's not ideal. Literally the Nazis being in control of all of fucking Europe.
Yeah, yes, it's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Also,
actually
big up
Edward.
Big up the
Sorry,
partisans as well in Yugoslavia, because they
absolutely.
did it. They fucking released themselves, basically. The Soviets just skirted north, and they went, "Fuck it, then. Let's cleanse this bitch."
Do you know whose decision it was to change the Allied allegiance from the Chetniks to the partisans?
It was Winston motherfucking Churchill.
It was fucking Winston Churchill.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I mean, he didn't like them. He knew they were communist. He did not like it at all. But they were fighting, and he said, "I'll give guns to any fucker who'll fight."
Exactly.
Fair
They
play. That's
weren't
a conservative with
like the Chetniks.
Yeah, a conservative with an ounce of principle. He did still do the genocide in India. I'm not pretending he wasn't a monster, but yeah, he did give guns to communists because they helped kill even more evil people.
True. I mean, I think somebody just brought up the Bengal famine in chat, and that's why I said, like, it was part of the war effort, but it wasn't part of like the actual fighting within the war, because that was kind of outside of the main areas of conflict.
Yeah,
of course, you know?
I put that more down to the evils of empire, rather than specifically a war. Because like we did famines in Bengal that were actually bigger than that in the past. Did you know, back in the 19th century, there was a much bigger famine in West Bengal, which we oversaw and didn't give a fuck about then either. And there wasn't a big world war happening then. So that's just a thing that empires do. They don't give a fuck. So, you know. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So not to defend Winnie at all, because frankly I'd happily tear the fucking statue down and piss on it myself. But he did give guns to the good guys in very specific situations.
You know, he chose the correct allies, both east, west, and central.
True.
Absolutely. Also, on the subject of the state to which what Keir Starmer and David Lammy are doing here is performative. Because what is known, what has been very true actually in the polling about the specific incident, is that the broad British consensus publicly, when polled, is that we absolutely should be stopping arms sales to Israel.
Yeah.
It is currently 49% support what they've done so far, and 26% oppose, with 24% don't knows. Across all British parties, across the British public, we absolutely support the actions of the restrictions of arms sales to Israel, which is a good thing. But, of course, I think most British people probably want it to go further than just a couple, than 8%.
Probably.
But this idea that huge swathes of our political class seem to be talking about, both within the Labour movement, like the LFI, or on the Conservative Party's benches, or coming from Reform UK or whatever, or from our increasingly more ridiculous media industry, Grant Shapps described this as student politics, activist politics. They literally describing adherence to international law and our treaties in terms of international arms shipments. The government complying with our international obligations over these treaties as student gesture politics. That's how brain broken our politicians are in comparison to the actual people on the ground.
Well, the Tories have really embraced the breaking international law in limited and specific ways. That's just a core principle now, it would appear. And secondly, it's no surprise to, I think, any relatively keen observer of British politics that the British political establishment is way out of line with the British electorate, as can be seen by the fact that was it 500,000 fewer people voted for Labour, very unpopular Labour Party, and then they get a massive majority. It's a ridiculous system that leads to the most ridiculously skewed careerist cunts like David Lammy becoming Foreign Secretary.
Quite so. And what happens after all this is that they just never learn. Like, they never learn about this. They're never going to actually bother thinking, well, actually, what does the public think? Maybe we should be more in line with the broad public perception, because it's clear our media institutions, as well as our politicians, are wildly out of step But that's why I think that this hasn't really been done in earnest from the government. It's being done because well, actually, if we make a show of it in terms of making a statement about how we were going to be properly scrutinizing arms sales while still selling 92% of the weapons that we were selling, though they can placate the public opinion without changing broad position on Western foreign policy when one of our allies in the region is doing unspeakable war crimes with our diplomatic and material support, which can be seen that they're trying to appease broad sections of the public by actually doing nothing. One interesting part, though, one very interesting part of the stats that I brought up on screen on my end, I will read them out for you, Kev. So you look at all the parties they've got in terms of the breakdown, the party political affiliation on the breakdown. If you're the conservative supporter, if you're a conservative voter, the support of the suspension of arms sales is 42% to only 37% opposed. So the conservative voters are also plurality in support of the government's decision to suspend some arms. Lib Dem and Labour wildly in support, like majority, not even plurality, majority in support of the suspension of arms sales. The only party of the four that has a plurality opposition to the suspension of some of these arms licenses to Israel is Reform UK.
What a surprise.
All of these liberal types, like I literally am quote tweeting somebody here who describes himself as a fanatical liberal at heart, pro-UK and pro-Europe. All of these liberal types who see Israel as a bastion of democracy in the region, the only democracy in the Middle East, and we need to support them, and Jumbly Crumbly Concrete was a nasty anti-Semite for being at all critical of our allies in the region. Do you know who your only ally is politically? Nigel Farage's Reform UK cranks.
Mad
How does
shit.
that make you feel?
Fucking insane. Also, good to see that the Labour Party is being outflanked by, let me just check, all Tory voters. Oh, okay, cool. So literally the Tory party's electorate is to the left of the Labour Party.
Exactly. I mean, the Labour Party's electorate is wildly to the left. The Lib Dem electorate is basically in the same position as Labour. It's only a couple of points different. There's just more don't knows on the Lib Dem side, but the kind of the ratios of support to oppose in terms of this restrictions of arms sales to Israel, Lib Dems and Labour broadly are singing from the same hymn sheet on this, and the Conservatives just behind. But if you're somebody who's watching this, who considers themselves some kind of liberal, think about who your bedfellows are. Your bedfellows are the absolutely most psychotic contenders for the Conservative Party leadership election. Grant Shapps thinks that you, along with him, see the opposition to Israel as being only gesture student politics. And your other allies in the chamber is Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, Lee Anderson MP, and two bankers. So yeah, enjoy your pro-Israel narrative, because I think you'll find that the majority of this population is full of honest-to-goodness people, both Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem, Green and SNP, who think that our government and our population and our country's diplomatic and material support of a imperialist outpost and colonial outpost in the Middle East for our security reasons is totally abhorrent. Well done.
So talking of the five fanatic extremists in Parliament, what have we made about the independent group? Hey, see what I did? That was a little switcheroo.
Isn't it? Yeah, there's no women, is it? It's very, very misogynistic.
Oh, that fucking thing, yeah. Like, I'm sorry, have they got like a ban on women joining, or is it just they're just five blokes? Like if Rachel Reeves wants to step across the Commons or something, I'm sure that would be hilarious. Actually, that should happen. But yeah. So for those who don't know, Corbyn's joined or set up this independent group thing, which is not really a political party, but it's also something, I guess. I don't really know. It's difficult to say at this point what it's even going to achieve, but I suppose it's better than nothing to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I made this point when I was talking about this on stream the other day. I think it was actually, there might have been yesterday, I think. I made the point about the new independent alliance of Corbyn and the five guys. And I was like, it sounded really bad, but it's true, right? They need more than one person as part of the alliance who isn't a Muslim. There needs to not be, because the problem, of course, I don't really mind if there's just an entire group of Muslims as a political alliance in government. That's fine.
Well,
Parliamentary.
Who's not
absolutely fine.
Who's not the Muslim then? Because Osama bin Corbyn is a Muslim, so who's not the Muslim?
But the problem, of course, is that the immediate attacks they're coming under is, although they're just pro-Gaza, they're just sectarians on the Israel-Palestine conflict. But this is not true. All of these MPs broadly believe in social justice and protecting the NHS, and they all had very strong statements against the Labour keeping the two-child benefit cap, right? So these people are not single-issue politicians. They care about social housing and maintenance of community. They're clearly not sectarian politicians, but the attacks are going to treat them like they are. The political zeitgeist is going to treat them like the party for the Muslims, and they need to ensure that they can undermine that rhetoric. Of course, they can't choose that the 5 independents that were elected on these tickets just happened to be of a certain faith and a certain gender and a certain background. But that wasn't the case for all of the independents standing. There was Anne San, there was Pamela Fitzpatrick, Faiza Shaheen, Leanne Mohammed. Like, there were loads of people. It happened to be these people who got elected.
Well,
right?
those Labour MPs that have lost the whip, that are now sitting technically as independents, surely they can be talked to, and 1 or 2 can be won round, I would hope. One would hope. Maybe.
I mean, I'd hope so. I mean, the irony being, I think the ones who'd be most likely to join, I think, would probably be Imran Hussein and Zara Sultana. But even so, you know.
And then it just looks like Jeremy Corbyn playing like fucking the Ash Ketchum of Muslims in Parliament. He's just going to catch them all. Like it's just. It's just collecting up all of the Muslims.
But I mean,
Sultana, I choose you. Go on, sorry.
What's important as well, I think, one thing's good about this is that, of course, I don't think any of the 7 expelled MPs will join the Independent Alliance. I don't think they'll join because I think they'll be now that the Independent Alliance exists, they'll absolutely be forced to be put back into the Labour Party. The Labour Party cannot risk any of these people defecting to the Independent Alliance because they know it would split the vote. They know that it would give credence to the Electoral Alliance for genuine left-wing people to abandon Labour and to walk away, especially those who joined during the Corbyn movement, because it'd be seen as a legitimate political party if Labour politicians treat it like being a legitimate one. So actually, by having this pressure, this hard pressure from the outside, from these 5 independents, it will force the Labour Party to be less draconian on, first of all, the 7 that have already been suspended on the whip, or future people who vote against the party, like Rachel Maskell talking about the winter fuel payment, or indeed the MP for Poole, who's tabling an amendment to get the winter fuel payment means test removed. So they can be more hard. The people in Labour can now play further hardball with Starmer, because Starmer now knows, and his Politburo knows, that any kind of desire to be antagonistic to the left of the party will lead them to want to go and force a vote split from the left by joining the Independent.
I think you give too much credit to Keir Starmer as a political strategist, or his team as political strategists. I don't think they even see it in some grand chess way. I think they're more ideological than that. I think they are more than happy to see 1 or 2 of those leftoids purged and not allowed back in, because that sends a strong message to anyone who might rebel that you're not just going to be let back in because we're going to be bullied by Corbyn or whoever. I'd like to think this will have a moderating effect on Keir Starmer's evil, but I suspect it won't, actually. Maybe. We'll see.
I mean, Keir Starmer isn't the political strategist, though. That's McSweeney and McFadden.
Well, that's what I mean. Even the team behind him, though. Yeah.
I mean, we have seen, basically, for the entirety of both the electoral cycle and up to now, these grand strategists who see themselves as the people who are going to take Labour from a fringe party who's in government sometime to be the natural party of government, actually haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing, just instantly giving themselves the worst publicity by announcing a means test on the winter fuel payment just before everybody goes on holiday, so we talk about the same thing for 2 bloody weeks.
Yeah, amazing shit.
I have informed my Right Honourable friend, the Business and Trade Secretary, and he is therefore today announcing the suspension of around 30 from a total of approximately 350 to Israel as required under
so fuck
the
all,
Export
then.
Controls Act. These include equipment that we assess is for use in the current conflict in Gaza, such as important components which go into military aircraft, including fighter aircraft, helicopters and drones, as well as items which facilitate ground targeting. And for transparency, this government is publishing a summary of our assessment.
Well, so pause 1 second.
Today I want
Vicky Clee in chat came across a podcast today which had straight up Radio Rwanda vibes. When you say Radio Rwanda, is that a reference that I don't get? Or are you talking about Radio Television de Libre de Mille Collines? Because that's quite an accusation.
Yeah, I think that is what that means, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because RTLM were literally like the broadcast of RTLM I cannot repeat because my account would get banned.
Yeah, like whose hands are they asking us to chop off? What is this podcast exactly? The Genocide cast? Like what do you mean? What?
Because if it's that literally that bad, then
it'll probably get a deal on Twitter. Elon Musk will give him a show. Yeah.
Oh, I think Lola Box has rated in just after I mentioned it. Welcome in, chatters. OP Joe, well, you feel no justice stream and who Kevin Logan.
Genocide.
Yeah, we talk about UK politics from a socialist perspective 6 days a week. If that sounds like your thing, press the subscribe button. You can also follow Kevin Logan at KFLogan1875 on Twitch or at Poppy111 over on YouTube for more UK politics takes from a different perspective, a very similar perspective, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair. Yeah. You think Gremlo watched it earlier? What the Radio Rwanda thing? Have you got a link, Rohak? What is this fucking thing? I hope it's not like a fucking mainstream thing. I hope it's just some nutters.
Oh, okay.
It'd be funny if it was. It'd be funny if it was George Osborne's podcast.
So the video that Vicky's just sent me.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I've not watched it yet. I'm going to post it in the DMs. Kev.
Okay, let's have a look.
The caption on Twitter says that the two hosts call for wiping out every single Palestinian in Gaza and the West Bank. Radio Rwanda in full effect here. This is deeply disturbing. I mean, maybe that's an embellishment. I really hope it is.
Well, if Gremlo watched it earlier, and he's a bigger channel than either of us, and he hasn't been taken down, so do we give it a listen, or what?
Is it TOS? I mean, it might be TOS on YouTube rather than Twitch.
So this is fully disturbing. Wiping out every Palestinian. Well, we're not advocating for it. We're just playing someone else talking about it. So I mean, I'm happy to take the risk, but if you're not, I'm absolutely not going to push the issue. I leave it entirely in your discerning hands.
I mean, we'll go for it, and we'll pull the plug if it gets a little bit too near the knuckle, shall we say?
Yeah, a little bit too spice. Fair enough. Okay, so this is Israel's longest running English podcast, Two Nice Jewish Boys, which would be a very interesting take on an old Rolf Harris hit. Hosts Noah Menninger and Etan Weinstein calling for the wiping out of every single Palestinian in Gaza and the occupied West Bank. Okay, let's wade into this shite, shall we?
So I would, if you gave me a button to just erase Gaza, every single living being in Gaza would no longer be living tomorrow, I would press it in a second. That's just,
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that the check was written here, and this man has cashed it by literally calling for the death of every single living being in Gaza. You're not breaking the apartheid with the charges anytime soon, are you, lads? Yeah. Hello?
Sorry, I'm just sitting here with my hand over my mouth.
Yeah, no, it's grotesque. That is a truly grotesque thing to say. Where are these people based? Oh, no, I'm not upgrading to premium. You can fuck off. Where are these lads
English.
based? Well, it's English language, but I'm picking up an accent. Two Nice Jewish Boys. Let's have a look at their Suicide bomber in Tel Aviv. About. Are you looking to escape from every corner of Israeli society? Oh yeah, so they're from.
One of them won a Nobel Prize.
They're from. Yeah, they're literally.
Oh, those are the guests. Sorry, Dave,
from
sorry.
Israel. Here's a fun fact: with the longest-running English podcast in Israel, having started in 2016.
One of them grew up in Birmingham, Alabama.
The wrong Birmingham, yes. He grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and pronounces the word "draw" funny. Okay. Noah Winiger is an independent filmmaker. He's obsessed with Italy and runs the Israeli Parmesan black market. And they're both cunts. That's the thing we've got, I think, there. So we'll look at their YouTube. Hang on a minute. One second. Let's just take a look at some of the... You can usually get a vibe from the kinds of titles they put on things. Israel reacts to John Oliver's West Bank monologue. Terror on the streets of Israel, England ablaze, and Jon Stewart hates Jews. Okay. Trump assassination attempt, Hamas leader killed. The future of Gaza, another dumb Rogan moment, and the Eurovision from hell. Palestinian Media Watch, exposing the ideology of hate.
There's one thing that you probably can say safely. There's probably a lot of people in Palestine who have less than savoury views of Jewish people, but even so,
oh yeah, indeed. Stop whitewashing the Palestinian people by calling them Hamas. What? Reaction: Israel under attack. The Israel-Gaza war explained. Oh God, they're just awful. Okay. I suppose let's continue.
No, I mean,
no, you don't want. Okay. Okay.
The clip's been posted in chat. If you want to watch it in your own time, when you are not constrained by terms of service, you're welcome to watch it in your own time. Indeed. I do not want to watch this, not just because of TOS, just because it makes me kind of ill.
Yeah, it is pretty gross, to be fair. Thank you, James Holmes, for 5 gifties. Much love.
Yay.
Okay. Let's, I suppose, get back to the less overtly or less honestly genocidal. Bullshit. I'm a little bit stunned by that.
They've suspended 8% of arms licenses. They're holding feet to the fire.
They're
here.
8% less genocidal than the people we just watched. David Lammy is a step up genocide-wise, and that is saying something. If you are more genocidal than David Lammy, fucking hell.
To underline 4 points about these decisions. First, Israel's actions in Gaza continue to lead to immense loss of civilian life, widespread destruction.
You know, I have to agree. This is such a delightful chatter. Thank you, Rohak. I want to sue them for false advertising. They don't seem very nice at all. That's true. They don't seem very nice. Yeah, and that's... Yeah, that is correct.
What's the worst part is it's just so tilting. It's so tilting when these people trying to parade themselves as being kind of... They wear their ethnicity as like the forefront of the things that they talk about when they're just not representative.
No, not at all.
They're just not representative at all. Like, imagine how damaging this is to like the gigantic majority of the Jewish diaspora who support who support a genuine two-state solution, especially in the UK. We have an incredibly progressive Jewish community in the UK who think that they want to have peace. They want a deal to return the hostages. They want a Palestinian state. Like that is the majority opinion of Jewish people in the UK. And then we've got people out here going, actually, maybe we should just ban these people.
Again, there is something sick. It's ethno-nationalism. It leads to this kind of illness within the population. Specifically in Israel, not in Jewish people worldwide, because they're not exposed to the fucking evils of like Zionist propaganda all the time, every single fucking day, right? It's like when you see whenever you see a tweet in Hebrew, you kind of think, don't translate it, Kev, don't. Because you know it's going to be some absolutely mental shit. Like the most egregious genocide, not even genocide apology, genocide celebration you've ever seen in your life. But these dickheads didn't even bother. They just, we're not even going to bother hiding it in Hebrew. We're literally just going to say it in English. Fuck you. Like,
who would win, 63 KMs or one translatey boy?
Exactly, yeah. Oh, God damn it. Oh, hello, lesbian hot sauce. Everyone go and follow lesbian hot sauce immediately.
Well, welcome in lesbian hot sauce.
To civilian infrastructure and immense suffering. In many cases, it's not been possible to reach determinative conclusion on allegations regarding Israel's conduct of hostilities. In part because
that's very convenient.
Either from Israel or other reliable
I'm sorry,
sources
David. I'm sorry. I'm like, it's incredibly frustrating. In that as soon as Russia had an inkling that they broke LOAC, immediately there was widespread international condemnation from huge amounts of states and sources. Arms sales were stopped immediately on every count count. There were international sanctions being placed and diplomatic pressure, right? Clear violations of LOAC.
Yeah.
Again, clear violations of LOAC all over again. And yet, because there are mates, right? We get mates rates on acceptable violations of LOAC, and suddenly they prevaricate. It's pathetic.
Oh yeah, no, they were all out there in front and centre saying, yeah, Russia's doing war crimes. It's terrible. And they were correct to do so because they were doing war crimes.
Exactly. They were correct to do so because Russia was doing war crimes. They were illegally invading, just like the Israelis illegally occupying.
Exactly. And just as there's a butcher in every corner of eastern Ukraine, there is literally the entirety of Gaza.
Yep.
And yet these very same people will prevaricate and like, well, maybe they're 8% closer to being a genocide than we would like, actually. So we'll suspend 8% of the licenses. Like, get fucked. Get actually fucked, you piece of shit.
Claims. Nevertheless, it is the assessment of His Majesty's government that Israel could reasonably do more to ensure life-saving food and medical supplies reach civilians in Gaza. In light of...
So you are literally saying they are preventing life. They are making life impossible to live. That is genocide. Like, it's you are literally describing the thing that you are claiming isn't happening, or that you can't say conclusively is happening.
Because again, right? Yeah, it's not in. It doesn't have to be in whole. It can also be in part, right?
Yeah. Like, very few, like, and this is the thing, the people who do the absolutist argument, like, well, if there's a genocide going on, why are there still Palestinians? Like, you're an idiot. If you're going to go by that measure, then there's been virtually no genocide that's ever taken place. Very few have been 100%, let's say, effective in terms of removing of genetic groupings. Very few. And, you know, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion. Like, you wouldn't be able to call the Holocaust a genocide then, would you? Because there are still Jewish people. Like, it's ridiculous. And you know it's ridiculous. Stop supporting genocide, you evil cunts.
It's just like even again, like, you know, there's, I think it was, he wasn't the human rights, the head of Human Rights Watch he'd been very reticent to describe it as such, right, for a very, very long time. Yeah. And then came out after about 8 months into the conflict and said, actually, no, I think that it probably is. And I'm just like, you know, I'm not an expert to be able to tell you whether there has or there hasn't been. But what there definitely has been is war crimes. There definitely has been a disregard for civilian life. Yeah. There definitely has been violations of the laws of armed combat. And there definitely has been a very large contingent of the Israeli right who have been given succor by an incredibly far-right government in Israel to justify further annexation, further colonization, further settlement, and further encroachment into Palestinian territory, right? Like the fucking buffer zone that they then will then plant trees in for future settlement, all of the, I mean, obviously pretty over-embellished videos of specifically kind of brain-broken kind of settler types, but they still exist and they're there, and the government does nothing to stop them. They do nothing to stop them when they break Israeli law by doing outposts in the West Bank. So, you know, the fact that they're doing the same thing, which essentially they're outposts in, like, the north of the Gaza Strip, I think was where most of these people are congregating, because they go through the Eretz crossing to be able to get there. And I'm like, well, like, how far does this have to go before we just say no? We again, these people do not understand words. They understand material action. And whilst they may say, oh, it's horrendous that an ally might cut off a very small amount of arms sales, I'm like, is that going to change course? Is that going to make them change course? Of course it isn't.
No. But Israel, I mean, the Zionists absolutely have to fight back against this, because even the slightest opening of that door, just it being slightly ajar, might lead to it being opened further and further, and then people start to realise and think, well, actually, why are we giving them aid at all? They've got nuclear weapons and like a fully costed fucking healthcare system. Like they've got a perfectly. If they can stand up on their own 2 feet, why are we giving them fucking anything?
Well,
Why are they given this special fucking treatment? It's ridiculous.
Well, I get that, like, the majority of their weapons come from like Germany and America aren't even signed up to the fucking Rome Statute. True. They don't need us. If they want to do what they're doing, then America is going to be the ones who fund them. That's their problem. It shouldn't be our problem. We see violations of international law. Again, half a century of violations of international law, and we should say enough. Enough, right? You want our diplomatic support, you stop violating international law, both in the West Bank in terms of the occupation, the settlements and the outposts, and in terms of how they've engaged in the war in Gaza. And you're like, no, it stops now, the buck stops with us.
Yeah. Lesbian hot sauce, you worked in Burma logging data for genocide. Really? You've got a very interesting backstory that I was unaware of. I'll have to get you on for a chat at some point, because that's amazing.
That is absolutely based as fuck. It's based as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that what's frustrating, I don't think many people talk enough about the Rohingya as well. Like that was disgusting what happened.
Well, I'll tell you something that people aren't fucking talking about, although they did talk about it in Parliament. Not that we'll get to it today, but Congo. What's happening in Congo? Which is just, it's mass starvation, it's war, it's awful. It's a genuinely atrocious situation that the world's just like, can't be bothered. They're not nearly white enough for me to care.
And on top of that, like, it is being fomented by terrorist groups funded by the government who we wanted to have a fucking immigrant exchange swap with.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Perfectly safe place to send very vulnerable
Although, to be
people.
fair, according to Chris Philp, they're the same country, so who knows?
Well, it's all over there, isn't it? It's all over their land. I don't speak foreignese, so it's difficult to tell. As a British person, I specifically choose not to know about these things.
The appalling humanitarian situation. And this government is also deeply concerned by credible claims of mistreatment of detainees, which the...
Time out. When you say credible claim, do you mean the Knesset literally supporting and celebrating the fact that Palestinians have been raped by their soldiers?
Oh yeah, and literally there was the debate that they had on the efficacy of prison rape. Like,
I'd suggest that goes beyond just credible claims to, like, yeah, that fucking happened. Like, if the people who did the crimes went, yeah, no, we did the crimes and it was awesome that we did the crimes, I think you can take it as read that they might have done the fucking crimes.
Exactly. I mean, it was an Israeli military court that tried to get these people sentenced.
Yeah, and fucking civilians tried to break into the fucking military prison to free the rapists.
Not just civilians, there were KMs in there as well. MK,
true,
sorry.
Yeah.
Actual Liquid MKs were fucking rioting in the Detainee prison.
Absolutely mental shit. Again, it's a deeply, deeply poisoned society. And again, it's ethno-nationalism. It happens. This is why fascism is so fucking... such a degradation of the human soul. It destroys. It's a cancer.
The International Committee of the Red Cross cannot investigate after being denied access to places of detention. Both my predecessor and all our major allies have repeatedly and forcefully raised these concerns with the Israeli government. Regrettably, they have not been addressed satisfactorily.
So what are you going to do about it? It's the same question I asked the previous government. It's the same question I'll answer now. Just saying, well, we've raised concerns and then they did nothing, and then ending the sentence is not good enough. What are you going to do in response to that? If the answer is fuck all, then I have to assume that your initial questioning, your initial probing of the situation was for show. It was just window dressing to make it seem like you gave a fuck. And actually what you are is a genocidal fucking cunt. An evil, manipulative, virtue signalling prick.
Second, there can be no doubt that Hamas pays not the slightest heed to international humanitarian law and endangers civilians by...
Again, just notice the change of tempo. Notice the change of intonation. Israel gets all this kind of kid gloves. Softly, softly. Maybe there's possibility that there might be slight breaking of international law. And Hamas is the most evil thing in the history of the world. They don't care about international law at all. 100% death to the Palestinian. You know, it's all of that.
That's what's so frustrating, right? Is that, yeah, like, Hamas have broken international law. The thing is, in the response to the ICJ says that there can be no equivalence drawn between Hamas and the Democratic State of Israel. They've all engaged in war crimes, right? They're all war criminals. The ICJ arrest warrants, we're now going to find a judgment on the potential acquiescence to the request for arrest warrants. We're going to be hearing in a few days' time. Like, there's a reason why they were included at the same time, because they all have committed war crimes.
By embedding itself in the tightly concentrated civilian population and in civilian infrastructure. There is no equivalence between Hamas terrorists and Israel's democratic government, or indeed Iran and their partners and proxies. But to license arms exports to Israel, we must assess their compliance with international humanitarian law, notwithstanding the abhorrence
Pause 1 second, sorry.
of their opponents.
Jordan asks, Palestinians would have to be a country of international law to actually matter, right? Plus, in war crime numbers, Israel has them beat by a large distance. Well, the state of Palestine is recognized by the United Nations, and the Palestinian Authority are signatories to the Rome Statute and are signatories to the conventions on upholding international humanitarian law. And that is why that the ICJ and the ICC have jurisdiction in the territory, because Mahmoud Abbas is a signatory. Has the Palestinian Authority signed up to it as the de facto governing body within Palestine, and that is why our initial opposition or our challenge under the Conservative Party to the potential for there to be ICC arrest warrants for them. Our objection was, well, actually, no, Palestinian state doesn't have any jurisdiction because we don't believe that it exists. We don't recognize the Palestinian state, but the UN does, and that's what matters when it comes to international law.
Also, when it comes to genocide, the statelessness of peoples is irrelevant. The Kurds don't have a state, but you can absolutely commit genocide against a Kurdish ethnic group. So,
well, the Rohingya don't have a state, and they do this internal to fucking Myanmar.
Indeed. So yeah, like in terms of international law and war crimes and stuff, like there is certain things that would potentially not be an issue if we're talking about a non-state actor. Like for instance, you can do things to terrorist groups that you couldn't do to a conventional army, and that's often why they say conventional armies are terrorists, so that they can do that with diplomatic impunity.
Well, yeah, that's what's frustrating, right? Is that, you can have every criticism of Hamas that you want. The Al-Qassam brigades are war criminals. It's very clear that they have committed massive violations of international law, both on the October the 7th all the way up to today. I mean, obviously, the execution of the hostages is even worse war crime than taking the hostages in the first place.
Yeah.
But what this was a violation of international law by the military wing of the governing group in the Gaza Strip, right? That doesn't make them terrorists. They're still war criminals, but terrorism is this very specific thing that you either apply to both or you apply to neither. But of course, under the Palestinian state, there are obviously competing factions in control of different parts of the federated states of Palestine across the different occupied territories. But Hamas have been in control of Gaza. The Al-Qassam brigades of their military wing They aren't terrorists. They're a military group of committed war crimes. That doesn't make it better or worse, but it designates them as being the official military wing of the government, rather than being people who LOAC doesn't apply to.
Yeah.
Tactics and ideology. Third, this is not a blanket ban. This is not an arms embargo.
Yeah, it's not a blanket ban, unless you consider a sock a blanket. Because that's about as much as you're fucking covering up.
Not really seen that
Target's
before,
around
right?
30.
No, exactly, yeah. That's, I mean, technically for him, a fucking Tampax is a blanket.
Approximately 350 licenses to Israel in total for items which could be used in the current conflict in Gaza. The rest will continue. Neither will the action we are taking have a material impact on Israel's security. This suspension only covers items which might be used in the current conflict. There are a number of export licenses which we have assessed are not for military use in the current conflict and therefore do not require suspension, and these include items that are not being used by the Israel Defense Forces in the current conflict, such as trainee aircraft or other naval equipment. And
That's
these
the
also
problem, right?
include export licenses.
This is what clues you into the fact that this is a virtue signal rather than a real kind of material pressure on the state of Israel's actions in Gaza. When he specifically says, this is not an embargo, this will not materially affect Israel's security state. Like, if we're not making any material impact, then you're not going to stop them doing what they're doing. And that's the issue, right?
And that's one of the main arguments, I think, isn't it, that these people make? Well, Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself. If we didn't sell it another gun, it wouldn't make any difference fundamentally to Israel's ability to defend itself. Also, it could just supply more shit from America, even if it did. So it's not an issue. It's for me, it's a matter of desperately trying to cling on to any straws of humanity within our foreign policy.
Well, exactly. That's it. And again, I mentioned it before, and I mention it again right now. And my overriding point on this one is that we shouldn't be giving material diplomatic cover at all, and we shouldn't have been for 50 years. We shouldn't have been doing it at all.
Yeah.
The entirety of the time they were illegally occupying the West Bank and Gaza. Just stop it. Stop the legal occupation. We can normalise diplomatic ties again. But you've done it forever. You've done it for half a century, right? That's your fault. That's a violation of international law. We can be no part of this, because whatever we do, we are still helping arm the IOF that administer the occupation that is illegal. What's happened to October and now is reprehensible, of course, in every sense of the word, but that shouldn't be the red line. The red line should have been the 50 years of occupation up until now.
This for civilian use, covering a range of products such as food testing chemicals, telecoms and data equipment. Nor will it prejudge the international collaboration, global F-35 program that supplies aircraft for more than 20 countries. And that is crucial to wider peace and security. Indeed, the effects of suspending all licenses for the F-35 program would undermine the global F-30 flight supply chain that is vital for the security of the UK, our allies and NATO. Therefore, the Business and Trade Secretary has exempted these licenses.
Oh, talking of NATO, did you see them all shitting themselves because Erdogan said he wanted to join BRICS? They are... the NATO is... Who would have thought it? Decades and decades of nations being under the thumb of America's foreign policy whim, and all of a sudden nations don't really want to be a part of that shit anymore.
Well, so honestly, it's frustrating that we wanted Turkey in NATO so they didn't drift into Russia's sphere of influence, and all that's done is just force us into a position where we can't have any opposition to what Turkey's been doing in fucking Kurdistan,
or what Turkey's been doing in Turkey. Because they've been repressing their own population significantly as well. The Islamisation of that nation has gone, frankly, under the radar because they're friends. It's fun. And they don't even fucking border on Russia anymore either, because they never bordered on Russia. The USSR doesn't exist anymore. So they're not even strategically that important.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, BRICS is like an economic union and the lira is totally fucked. Like, yeah, sure. I'm sure the BRICS countries will happily let somebody join who just has a terrible economy anyway.
That's why they want to join. It's like the drowning person. Just any boat. Any boat is better than me currently drowning, please.
Yeah, like the rest of the BRICS countries have nothing to gain.
Nothing. Literally nothing. No. I suppose other than more cheap exploitable labour that's happy to move to different places, I guess, maybe.
And trying to take Turkey out of the NATO sphere of influence, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some of that, yeah. If BRICS wants to genuinely sort of step onto the world stage as the big daddy big bollocks, peeling away America's friends is probably not a bad way to do it.
Yeah, because again, there's just so much shit, right? Remember when Ukraine was going to be joining NATO potentially? Oh, sorry, Sweden and Finland joining NATO. When Sweden and Finland joined NATO, they literally had to extradite Kurdish dissidents to Turkey so they could fucking torture them as a prerequisite for joining NATO. And I'm like, this shit's fucked.
Mad. Oh no, Maria, I wasn't suggesting Turkey has no strategic importance. I'm just saying, the reason that they were ever considered a part of the Western club, because it was previously sort of a white people club, and they went, okay, we'll allow some sort of vaguely brown people in because they border the USSR, and we can control their access in and out of the Mediterranean. Basically, effectively, locking all of the warm water ports for the USSR as useless. Which is why, of course, Russia has that one port in Syria, which is literally the only reason they support Syria. Because they want to keep hold of their one warm water port anywhere.
From his decision. Fourth, the government will keep our position under review. Commitment to comply with international humanitarian law is not the only criteria in making export licensing decisions. We will continue to work with our allies to improve the situation, and foreign policy, of course, involves tough choices. But I will always seek to take such decisions in line with our principles, and I will keep this House updated in line with the previous commitment. Mr. Speaker, we do not take this decision lightly, but we note that on previous occasions, ministers from all sides of the House, Labour, Conservative and Liberal Democrat, chose not to license exports to Israel. In 1982, Margaret Thatcher imposed a full arms embargo and oil embargo on Israel as they fought in Lebanon.
Literally, she was to the left of the Labour Party today.
Well, yeah, exactly, because what happened in Lebanon obviously was fucking insane, right? Like, Israel were complicit in Sabra and Shatila and shit like that. But that wasn't as bad as what's happening now.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Like, especially those incursions in the fucking West Bank as well.
Conflicts in Gaza prompted Gordon Brown to suspend 5 licenses in 2009, and Vince Cable chose not to issue new licenses while conducting a review in 2014. Like them, this government takes seriously its role in applying export licensing law, reflecting the published criteria and the specific circumstances. But let me leave this House in no doubt. The UK continues to support Israel's right to self-defence in accordance with international law. In April, British fighter jets intercepted Iranian missiles aimed at Israel, preventing significant loss of civilian life. We supported robust action against the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen, and who have attacked Israel directly as well as Israel-linked shipping.
Any reason why they might have done that? At all? Any context for that? Or was it just
I mean,
random,
to be fair,
violence?
You can't just attack ships because your mates are under attack, unfortunately.
No, but there's a reason that they've turned to violence rather than,
I mean, at the end of the day, right, so
states.
whether or not you think that there's justification for the acts of the Houthis, obviously I don't think that there is. But regardless of whether you think that there's justification for it, what is absolutely incontrovertibly true is that the escalation of conflict in the region because Western allies of Israel refuse to put their foot down and tell Netanyahu, no, you can't have any more toys until you behave like an adult, has caused this to escalate and has caused the Houthis to do what they've done.
That's a point. Where would the T go in BRICS if Turkey joins? Trugs? No, it wouldn't work. No, fuck off. What you need, or they could take the K from Turkey and just add it in there, and it's literally BRICS. But that wouldn't really make a lot of sense.
And Iran should be in no doubt of our commitment to challenge their reckless and destabilising activity in the region and across the world. We will continue to work hand in glove with our
I've already said what I've said. I don't need to repeat it.
Fair enough.
international partners.
Do you want to watch the... Did you say there's a James O'Brien bit after this?
Yeah, it was a James O'Brien debate with a pro-Israeli caller.
Nice.
To stand up to Iranian aggression and malign activity wherever it is found, and we continue to hold Iran to account,
also,
including
pause 1 second
through
as well.
extensive sanctions.
Slicer points out, if you're enjoying the content, you can subscribe on Twitch for $4.99 or for free with Twitch Prime by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account for a single free Prime subscription to Twitch every single month. All the benefits of Prime for no additional cost and giving us extra money from Jeff Bezos, such as ad-free viewing and all of our static and animated emotes in Twitch chat. You can drop bits for text-to-speech. That's 100 bits on my end, 200 on Kev's end for text-to-speech. If you want a message read out, if you want us to read out a message for you on YouTube, you can super chat. I will only read them out if they're not rude. However, Kevin will read them out only if they are rude, regardless of value. Memberships on YouTube for both our channels are only 99p. It's cheaper than a can of Red Stripe. But the best way to support is obviously to gift memberships, as it helps boost the stream and the algorithm. Spread the love around for all of the emotes, all of those benefits. And on my end, it gets you access to my archive live streams as well for those who have memberships. So remember, you guys always plenty of ways to support. We both have Patreon. Kevin has PayPal though, so if you want to have a free donation, you can go through PayPal for Kevin, which you can't for me, unfortunately.
Matthew suggests Tea Cribs, which I mean just sounds like an MTV show about trans people's houses. Which, like, I mean, I'd watch it, I think, but I don't know if it works as an acronym for bricks, to be honest.
And today we're doing so again. We're announcing new sanctions on 4 IRGC.
Actually, that's kind of weird. Actually, somebody pointing out that Thatcher was like woke or something for. I mean, they would just call her for her arms suspension of her arms embargo for Israel.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is obviously I rag on her on this channel, every single time she gets mentioned about her support for the Khmer Rouge government in exile, or her support for Gulbuddin Hekmatyar in Afghanistan. But it's very interesting how she will back Islamists and communists, but she won't back the Jews. She truly is she's part of the Islamo-leftist alliance.
She really is. She was the originator of the woke mind virus.
Absolutely, it all stemmed from Maggie Thatcher.
Yeah, exactly. We stan our woke queen. Oh god. Oh, just my own skin crawl. Oh no.
Since I've brought up Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, it's worth pointing out again.
Of course you did. Yeah, let's go.
It's worth pointing out to everybody that my favourite Gulbuddin Hekmatyar story, which was that after the PDPA government fell in Afghanistan, there was supposed to be a unitary government for the Mujahideen fighters, but Gulbuddin's forces were the strongest. They thought they could conquer the entirety of Afghanistan by force. So he refused to sign the Peshawar Accord, which was the accord that essentially stated for a unitary Mujahideen government in Afghanistan. So there was a civil war that broke out. Do you know who was the cleric, the Mujahid cleric in Afghanistan, who told Gulbuddin Hekmatyar he was being too extreme and should sign the Peshawar Accords anyway?
Osama bin Laden.
It was Osama bin Laden.
Yeah. Although it's honestly, I love doing shows with you because you get sentences like, I tell you my favourite Gulbuddin Hekmatyar story. Who hasn't got their favourite fucking Hekmatyar story? We've all got it.
It reminds me when I came back from France. I came back from France one time, and I had a friend who I played magic with called Stefan, who was like so posh he basically couldn't function. He was incredible. He was nice, but he was incredibly posh.
Right.
I remember coming back from France. I was like, I tried this new cheese when I was in France. It was really nice, quite smelly cheese, but I really liked it in like pancakes and galettes and stuff. It's called Reblochon. And he immediately went, oh, I have an anecdote about Reblochon. And I was like, Stefan, of course you have an anecdote about Reblochon.
Also, I found a new word for cheese that you put on top of stuff on food, right? Cheesening.
Let the cheesening commence.
Cheesening. Oh, it's good. It's so good.
Who have a role in supporting Iranian proxy actions in Iraq, Syria and Lebanon through the UK's dedicated Iran sanctions regime. We've sanctioned over 400 Iranian individuals and entities.
So hang on. So this is with the Israel thing, but most of it's like, yeah, no, fuck Iran. We're going to sanction Iran more. Okay, cool.
And through our
It's
work
fine.
with
You can
partners, we are
sanction Iran all you
exposing
want.
and
No, I don't mind that, but like,
Yeah.
if you think that's the issue here, like, come on now, Lammy. Come on, mate.
It's just frustrating that the sanctioning with this, as far as Israel goes, is just, well, we'll just sanction just the illegal settlers under Israeli law. Will we sanction, like, the large settlement blocks? Will we sanction the government more broadly for the whole war crimes and ethnic cleansing and annexation occupation stuff? No, we won't do that. But again, we'll just do, like, the minimum possible to virtue signal about how we're not just complete maniacs, just kind of slight maniacs in terms of how we deal with Israel's foreign policy.
containing Iran's destabilising weapons development, where soon we'll be introducing further regulations to bolster existing bans on the export of goods and technology significant to Iran's production of drones and missiles. So let me be clear. We will continue to work with Israel and our partners to tackle the threat from Iran across the region. This government will continue to stand for Israel's security, and we will always do so in a manner consistent with our obligations to domestic and international law.
No, you won't. That's a fucking lie.
I commend this statement to the House.
I now call the Shadow Foreign Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I thank the Foreign Secretary
Andrew
for
Mitchell's the
advance
fucking shadow foreign secretary.
Yeah. I can't imagine he's
What?
going to survive into the new regime, I imagine.
They have Alicia Kearns on the front bench. Why is she not shadow foreign secretary? She's actually good at her job.
Well,
light of his statement. Mr. Speaker, over the weekend we were once again reminded of the tragic human toll of this conflict, with Israel recovering the bodies of 6 more innocent hostages murdered by Hamas.
Let me stop you there, Andrew.
The only way, Mr. Speaker...
Let me stop you right there. Don't get reminded of human conflict, the human cost of a conflict, only when the people I like die.
yes.
It's interesting how he just forgot about the human cost of the conflict when it was tens of thousands of Palestinians dying. 6 Israelis have died, well, now that I care. Again, it's terrible. It's an atrocity. Not just taking the hostages, but killing the hostages. It's an absolute atrocity. But, there were also all of the Palestinian children that have died up to this point. Was it not a reminder for you of seeing photos on social media of children with their heads blown off? Like...
No, clearly not. Clearly he was just like, I don't really care about all this. But then I saw these 6 people whose lives do matter, and then I was reminded, oh yeah, there's a war going on. I'm only shadow foreign secretary. I shouldn't really, I shouldn't need to pay attention.
Have you seen what the commander of the Al Qassam brigades has said? They've essentially said that if the Israelis try and free any more hostages through military means, they will go home in coffins. That was the statement that was made by Abu Ubaidah.
Well, that is bound to calm things down, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's.
Don't you love diplomacy?
Yeah, isn't it great when you've just got 2 sides of incredibly fanatical, bloodthirsty people on both sides who just won't see sense? Although, to be fair, one side of these keeps collapsing the peace talks. Thank you, Jack, for 20 gifted. Appreciate the support.
Because this conflict will be brought to an end, and for the suffering to end is through the release of those hostages. This cruel captivity has lasted almost a year. Their suffering and jeopardy is intolerable for Israel, and it should be intolerable for anyone who cares about human rights and human dignity. Many of us in this House have met with the families of the hostages.
But the people of Israel want a hostage deal.
Yeah, they're literally in huge demonstrations calling for a national strike to get this fucking deal. They're desperate for the deal. It seems there are very few people outside of Israel who want it more than the people of Israel want it. Now, they don't necessarily want it for the benefit of the Palestinians, to be sure. But, are they also with Hamas because they want a deal, or what?
Yeah, it's honestly, and Netanyahu did this speech where it's like, I know you're all mad about the fact that my continuation of this conflict and refusal to acquiesce to a ceasefire deal that doesn't indeed include me fucking annexing the border between Gaza and Egypt. Right? That I won't acquiesce to a deal that doesn't give us infinite military control and military occupation over Gaza forever. Because that's what he said, essentially. Yeah. There would be no time frame for any kind of military withdrawal from Gaza. And no hostages to return. I know that you're mad, but tough shit. Jog on was basically his response to the people desperate to see their friends and family come home. The man's psychotic.
Yeah. No, he's genuinely fucking unwell. And evil. An evil person.
In the midst of unimaginable pain and anxiety, they keep the torch burning for their loved ones.
Norj in chat asks, isn't the current head of Hamas more fanatical than the previous leader? Yeah, Ismail Haniyeh was considered a moderate or more moderate leader, and it's been replaced by somebody far more hardline.
Publicly highlighting their plight and tremendous bravery. And let us be clear, Mr. Speaker, the onus is on Hamas. They are using the Palestinian people as human shields. Hamas has no humanity and it has no shame. And as Hamas inflicts terrible suffering on both the Israeli...
Honestly, at this angle, he genuinely looks like a thumb. Like, it doesn't... There's no definition to anything. He's just got... It's just a hairy little thumb. Okay.
Israeli and Palestinian people. It should not be forgotten that another Iranian-backed proxy, Hezbollah, is engaged in continuous attacks on Israel's northern border.
Let's balance the fucking rhetoric here, right? If X, Y, and Z are described as Iran-backed proxies, we should honestly start describing Israel as a US-backed proxy. Because that's what this is. It's America's little military tool in the Middle East. It's only fair.
Order, with the risk of further and yet more dangerous escalation across the blue line. Our support for Israel's security is rock solid in the face of threats from those who wish it serious harm, just as we showed in April this year when British personnel and weaponry were used to counter Iran's massive missile attack. We will
Did you need to make that as horny as it sounds?
Mr. Speaker, at the limited arms embargo memorandum
massive missile
that the Foreign Secretary has promised the House, while he rightly does not publish his legal advice, we are grateful that he is honouring the promise I gave to the Business and Trade Committee on publishing as much as possible on this. And he will, I know, and as he said, be careful not to indicate in any way at all any moral equivalence between Hamas and the democratically elected government of Israel. In government...
Yeah, Hamas aren't that bad. Ayo! See what I did? I did the switcheroo on him. I'm very clever. You should give me money. Everyone should give me money.
Mr. Speaker, we introduce sanctions.
Speaking of giving
to
money, thank the giftarinos, who I missed the gifts for. There was, 20 gifters from Takmela, 5 from Russell Hawkins, 10 from Donny Skater, 5 from Arimus T. Thank you, everybody, for your continued support of the channel.
Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. We also sanctioned extremist Israeli settlers who committed human rights abuses against Palestinian communities in the West Bank. And we welcome the new sanctions the Foreign Secretary has announced today.
I've already said it. It's not just the human rights abuses the problem, it's the settlements existing in the first place. But again, we can't admit that these are violations of international law, because then we are admitting that we turned a blind eye for them for 50 years.
Yep.
On 4 IRGC Quds Force targets. Mr. Speaker, implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1701 remains our best hope of de-escalation and peace along the blue line. Resolution 1701 provides a roadmap which everyone should seek to follow, and we welcome the government's reaffirmation of its support for Resolution 1701. In relation to British nationals in Lebanon, it is very much our hope that since...
As we've basically been through this, and this guy is honestly making me fucking fall asleep. Should we move on to either the James O'Brien bit, or do you want to do the race riots Parliament bit?
I don't think there's much we can glean from the race riot stuff anyway.
Fair
Labour's rhetoric poor, Tory's worse.
Yeah, there wasn't what the only interesting bit, because I did watch part of it live, was James cleverly in response getting up there and doing his "I'm the good black guy" bit. I'm one of the good ones, honest, pick me, by saying the government's response is all well and good, but what happened when Labour took the knee in response to the violent rioting of the BLM protests?
But they did. That is what's so fucking tilting. The biggest, most tilting thing out of all of the two-tier policing discussion is people continually talking about Black Lives Matter riots. I'm sorry, I didn't realise that the Minneapolis police precinct was in fucking Walthamstow. There were no BLM riots in the UK.
Yeah, no, there really weren't. There was no. Oh, sorry. I've just typed race riots into the chat. I didn't mean to shout that. Just for it, it wasn't like that wasn't a celebration. That was a clarification. Apologies. Yeah, there were no violent protests. He's talking shit, and of course we know that Sir Keith's approach to race relations is, as with so much, fake as fuck, and he doesn't believe in anything. He's actually a very
sketchy
racist man.
at best.
Yeah.
But that's what's so dumb about it, is that there were protests that toppled the statue.
Yes.
A single statue got thrown into the Severn, I believe, or was it the sea? I forget.
No, into the Severn.
Water.
Yeah, into the
in Bristol.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah,
you can have an opinion. You can have an opinion on that. You can think it was bad. I think you were a rube if you thought that was bad. I think you're a fucking liberal moron for saying, "Oh, but what about the damage to property of the statue of the slave owner?" I'm like, come on, get a grip. But even so, these people were acquitted in a court of law. That's the end of the matter.
True.
Right? But there were no riots. Nothing was burnt down. There weren't any attempted lynchings. Nobody set fire to any hotels. There weren't any BLM riots.
Yeah, he's talking shit. So, but that was the one vaguely interesting bit. And again, I actually did quite a good job in response by saying, I'm not sure what I should really respond to with the Shadow Secretary's answer there, because it seemed more like he was pitching that to his own party than to me.
Oh, with River Avon in Bristol, obviously, yeah. Thank you, Martin, for pointing out that my geography is shit.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, J.O.B.
Notorious
J.O.B. In so many ways, he notices several years after the fact. And he's come round to the idea, maybe Israel's doing a bit of war criminess. Maybe that's not super awesome, actually. Which, is surprisingly based for this liberal gobshite.
I always wonder whether you think I exaggerate the polarity of this discussion. You probably don't, but here's a rather startling illustration of it. Two texts arrived both at 10:32. Okay, the first one, you're right, James. Lammy has picked a side: Israel, genocide, ethnic cleansing, mass displacement, collective punishment, torture, you name it. He's on that side. And at 10:32, another text come in saying Starmer and Lammy have just have just declared that they are anti-Jewish. So that's a response to the same policy. One contending that it renders the British government anti-Jewish, and one contending that it sees the British government line up in lockstep with the Israeli regime, which my texter accuses of all of the things that I just read out. So
this is just how silly the pro-Zionist side is, in that they admitted in their discussion of the material reality of the arms sales suspension that it wouldn't materially affect Israel's ability to defend itself. In their own statement, they said, actually, this won't have any real effect at all, and we're keeping 92% of the licenses.
Yes.
Okay. And yet, people will still go out of their way to say, this is alignment with Iran and its proxies intent on the dissolution of the State of Israel. And
because they have to push back. They have to push back on any slight inkling, because they only exist because international opinion allows their governments to get away with what they get away with, right? By giving them weapons and diplomatic cover and all the rest of it. However unpopular that is, it's not so unpopular and so visceral that the governments are in threat of being toppled. So that's the only thing that keeps Israel able to do what it does. So even a slight bit of pushback from nations, like when Israel withdrew its kicked out the Israeli ambassador or some ambassadorial staff, that was too much. Even that was it's too much. That's you've aligned yourself with Hamas. You want to rape all of the Jewish women at the concert. You want to what was the thing that Rabbi Shmuley said? You want to cut off the breasts of Jewish women and play football with them, was a claim he made. Fascinating man. By the way, just been taken on as an advisor to the Donald Trump campaign. Fun times. Anyway, yes, they have to push back against anything because it's an all or nothing, like, death cult, basically. They can't accept any pushback in the slightest.
That's what's frustrating, right? Is that at least the anti-Zionist side here makes sense in that, well, you haven't materially affected the ability. There is no real pressure for Israel to change its course. All you've done is essentially cover your own backside potentially in case of a legal challenge. Too little, too late, as far as I'm concerned. But as far as the allegiance in terms of the root of the conflict comes, he even said in a statement that he's a Zionist without qualification and that he believes in Israel's right to exist as the Jewish state in the region.
Yes.
Okay, right. Anti-Zionists will dislike you if you say those things. But they're obviously the political optics when a broad societal opinion is that, well, maybe Israel's probably doing bad things, this is okay to drop the arms sales. So I can understand why most anti-Zionists are looking at this and thinking that it's meaningless. I cannot just understand why the pro-Zionist side of this discussion could even look at this and go, this is allegiance with Hamas for suspending 8% of weapons licenses. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous.
Yeah. No, absolutely, yeah. Also, it's just the fact that he decides to set out the discussion from these two sides are both extreme is just the extenuation of his like sensibles routine. Like, I'm the sensible midway point between these two crazy positions. You know, he's a feckless, spineless liberal piece of shit.
It's the pants full of shit meme.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. If they're both criticising me, it must mean I'm doing something right. No, you can't just be wrong.
Yeah.
And have pants full of shit.
What do you think about the decision? And remember, it's based upon a review called by David Lammy as soon as he arrived in the Foreign Office. And the advices he has received is that there are 30 arms licenses in place which carry an untenable possibility of facilitating serious breaches of international law. So I mean, one way you could break this down, you're either in favour of international law or you don't think it should apply to Israel. Holly's in Wimbledon. Holly, what would you like to say?
Hi, James. Good morning. I think that the UK's decision to suspend a very, very small portion of the licences to Israel is largely a political statement. I think it's virtue signalling. Do I agree with it? No, I do not. But do I think it's going to make an iota of difference?
I mean,
because the UK...
International law is the fulcrum upon which this opinion has to be formed, isn't it? So why shouldn't the UK government seek to insist that Israel follows international law?
Firstly, Lammy has said quite clearly that the decision yesterday is not based on any findings that Israel has committed any breaches of international law. In fact,
no, that's not true. It's particularly with reference to the.
In fact,
well, you can't.
Specifically, the rules around arms sales is that we can't sell them if there's even a risk that they would break international law. And that's what David Lammy said in the comments. This is the law that we are beholden to here, is they shouldn't be sold with any risk they could be they could be used for violations of international law. Because if they do get used for it, then we're culpable. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
You can't talk over me when you've made
James,
sweeping statements.
You must allow me.
No, you can't say things that aren't true.
Well, Israel has taken extraordinary lengths to uphold international law.
No, but you just said David Lammy hadn't identified areas in which it might have been broken, and he has.
That's not what I said at all. He said that it wasn't the correct forum in order to judge.
Okay, so the areas in which these concerns are most acute would include the ability of aid to get into the Gaza Strip and the treatment of detainees. So the equipment,
James,
the licenses that have been, no, the license. It's important that my listeners know the facts before we hear more rhetoric. The licenses that have been lifted, in the opinion of the Foreign Office advisors, would be for equipment likely to facilitate abuses of aid's ingress into the Gaza Strip or to facilitate abuses of detainees. So those are some of the areas upon which David Lammy is basing his decision, just for clarity.
James, you refer to facts, and I'm also going to refer to facts. In the last week, Israel has provided the polio vaccines for 2.5 million people in Gaza. Now,
why is polio back?
Why? Yeah, why is polio back? Why was that necessary? Also, I don't care that they do some nice stuff. Like, that's not the point. Like, yeah, they are doing some things correct. I wasn't suggesting that they've committed all war crimes. No, just some, and that's too many.
Yeah, like, again, and also there's a difference between, like, every single rank-and-file IDF member and the actual governing parties of Israel and the political choices that they make. Of course, there are plenty of awful people on the ground as members of the IDF as well. We've seen the kind of things that they do in ethnically cleansed areas of Gaza when they infiltrate people's houses and try on women's clothes, or when they dance around talking about slaughtering Amalekites and things like that. Like, we've all seen that kind of stuff. But, you know, of course, there's a broad spectrum across people in this regard. But it's the political choices of the leadership that we're talking about here. There's a reason why the arrest warrants have been asked for Gallant and Netanyahu, because those are the ones who are at the top of the chain, the ones making the decisions. And as you say, right, they may well have been allowing the polio vaccine to get in, but you can't just right wrongs by doing something good in response. It's just like when everybody says things like, oh, well, they warn people when they're going to bomb an area, which in half the time they don't do that. But even so did the IRA. Yeah. The IRA warned people when they were going to bomb something. That doesn't make bombing things okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Just pointing to some nice stuff they do, that doesn't mean anything. You can literally do that with every regime. Look, I'm sure the North Koreans do some nice shit. I'm sure the Iranian government do some nice shit. You wouldn't defend those countries, you know? Come on.
Yeah, and on top of that, there are plenty of conflicts where even people who do stick with international law, where polio might escape. You know, there might be plenty of conflicts through people, both sides of adhering to international law, where because of the nature of war, polio outbreaks might potentially happen. That's the thing that
disease spreading in any war. The healthcare service is basically on the verge of collapse, if not actually collapsed. The outbreaks of easily communicable diseases, especially sexually transmitted diseases, often because of weapons of war, shall we say, are rampant. Yeah, we know that.
But again, that's completely tangential.
Completely tangential. Yes. Irrelevant.
The adherence to the laws of armed conflict of the IDF and the political decisions of the Netanyahu government.
Yeah, exactly. The Nation of Islam has fantastic community services. True. They feed poor people and shit. Does that mean we let them off with the hideous anti-Semitism? No, that's not how any of that works.
You can be charity work and terrorist attacks.
You can do. You can. If a murderer makes you a nice cup of tea, I'll be honest with you, the cup of tea doesn't take the edge off it for me. That's still a murderer, you know.
Go back in Gaza.
It's that because of the humanitarian crisis there, but that's not.
What's caused the humanitarian crisis?
It's like she's trying to. They've become so obsessed with the Hasbro thing of the passive voice. Everyone in the West has to be desensitized to the passive voice. That when he's pointing out the passive voice, it's so glaringly obvious. It's so starkly in everyone's face because she's doing there's this problem and that problem, and he just goes, why does that problem exist? Who caused that problem? Why is that a problem? We don't have to have mass polio fucking vaccine outbreaks here in Britain. That's not a thing. So why is it over there? Who caused that? What happened there? Palestinians just die. They're never killed. Or if they are killed, they're not killed by anyone in particular. They just exploded, you know?
You owe a duty to your listeners to also allow me to finish.
You're going to be able to finish, but what's caused the humanitarian crisis in
The
Gaza?
current conflict. Now, why are we
The current
focusing only
conflict.
on Israel in this conflict? Why are we? Hamas.
That's a surreal question.
It's not just a surreal question, it's bullshit. The amount of fucking, like, do you condemn the hummus that we had to put up with for 6 fucking months. The idea that we just talk about Israel in this conflict is ludicrous.
It is, yeah. But this is something that you hear quite a lot. And I get the other thing that you always hear as well is that, we only criticise this particular conflict. We never really talk about other ones. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, did you see the leftists who are on the street protesting the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia being invited to the UK whilst they do war crimes? Who was the people who opposed the UK's backing of Indonesia's occupation of East Timor?
Yeah.
Who were the ones who have continually been in support of Rojava, including people from the RMT who literally flew over to go and join the YPJ in their defense of Kurdistan?
Yeah.
Like, we have always been the side of the international community who have supported the oppressed against the oppressor.
Indeed.
Regardless of the situation. So to act like we just care about Israel is abject nonsense. We were the ones talking about, the sacking of the Republic of Artsakh, the ethnic cleansing by Azerbaijan.
Yeah, sure.
Every conversation. No, but you can't. Of course, you're going to be able to finish, Holly. But we're not focusing only upon the actions of Israel. How many times this morning have you heard me mention the atrocity of October the 7th and the 1,200 dead Israelis?
Mention it. Well, actually,
Remember,
I'm
everyone else has
quite
been listening as well.
Well, absolutely, but
So
you
you just said
referred
I
to
haven't mentioned it.
40,000.
You've just said I haven't
didn't
mentioned it.
say
That's
that.
a
You're
lie.
putting words in my mouth now,
You said,
James.
why are we focusing
You
exclusively on the
mentioned-
actions of Israel? This is so pointless.
No. Let me finish my sentence.
He's talked to some of the weirdest racists and freaks out there, and I've never seen him look as dejected as trying to break through the, ironically, the iron dome of lack of logic of the Hasbro freak. Like it's impossible. He's like, yeah, this is pointless. Like I can talk to a fascist because at least, like, I don't know, they won't deny a thing I literally just said because I just said it. And she's just like, no, you didn't say it. No, fuck you. No.
And that's the problem with so many of these people, especially people who just get all of their points of view from what they read in the media, right? Well, the lines that the politicians take is that all they know is how to converse in dialogue trees.
Yeah.
How to converse like a non-player character. To spend the entirety of their time in a discussion going, well, these are the talking points that the people on social media follow, that I follow, that have said, or the politicians have said in the House of Commons. I'm like, how about you just engage with the question you're being asked in reality?
And when you've been following this topic for as long as I have, and you do a bit of the reading and all of that, you find yourself realising, oh, I know where they got that talking point from. You start to notice the pattern, like, oh, I know they go to this site, or they listen to this person, or they read this blog, or whatever, and that's where they're getting this bullshit from.
Exactly. It's just like with the with Brianna Wu talking about, oh, well, it's contested history that the Palestinians were expelled during the Nakba. Yeah, it's not contested history if you're anybody other than somebody who's been propagandized to by literal Israeli government propaganda from the 50s and 60s.
I was about to say,
got hold of the classified documents.
That's the strange thing. Yeah, after the new historians, I didn't think anyone would make any of that kind of argument again, because, like, it's indisputable what happened. You can argue about it. I mean, some of the Zionist new historians think, oh, that happened and it was good, but like they don't deny that it happened. Whereas she's just like, no, it's contested, so it's fine.
Yeah, at least Benny Morris has the consistency in his position as a Zionist to say, I know all the facts, I know the ethnic cleansing happened, but it was necessary to establish the homeland, right? That's what he believes. But so many people, both in Israel, outside of it, in the UK and in the United States, people who grew up before the 6-Day War or the Yom Kippur War, for example, who view Israel as this besieged enclave rather than the Western outpost that it was this basically has become at this point.
Yeah, the
And
only
they
nuclear
still
armed
subscribe
nation
to
within
stuff
1,000 miles. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, they heard talking points that came from IDF propaganda from the 50s and 60s, and they never bothered reanalyzing the things that they believed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people do that. The more I've analysed of the world, the more I realise there is a large section of society, and it's mostly like conservatives and stuff, but they basically do all of their emotional maturity to the age of about 10, and then they just stop. They don't bother reanalysing anything ever again. They're just completely incurious about the world around them. They think they've got it figured out by about the age of 10 to 12, and they just stop bothering. It's the most intellectually lazy bullshit. But unfortunately, it wins elections. That's the problem. That's why you end up with the childish rubbish of stop the boats and get Brexit done. Another 3-word fucking nonsense. Build the wall. Lock her up.
Fixing the foundations.
Yeah, just soundbite politics for idiots.
Stop saying things that aren't true.
Like what?
Like that we're not mentioning the actions of Hamas, or we're focusing exclusively on Israel, or that David Lammy hasn't cited areas in which international law might be broken. Go on then, you carry on.
has a scandal funding them.
The other faction that is part of the contribution to what is happening in Gaza. Do we think that, what do we think Hamas are? Some sort of yoga retreat organisation?
Very funny.
They're certainly not.
Yes.
I've never seen him this, just broken. I've never seen him give up on a conversation before. You can be talking to the most mental as fuck, Trump supporter or Tommy Robinson freak, or literally even Nigel Farage and his fucking stupid word games. And I've never seen him just be like, oh, fuck this.
Because again, it's the dialogue tree. She's not engaged with James O'Brien's points at all.
Yeah, she's not. This isn't a conversation.
Everybody else only talks about Israel in my mind, so you must have not mentioned Hamas or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. She's essentially a Hasbro, I don't know, AI machine or something. And so it's not a conversation that's happening. He's having a conversation, talking to a wall, and it's going to give you the same response regardless, because it's just pre-programmed to say the same shit over and over again. Yeah. Thank you, Elliot, by the way, for your 200 bits and your incredibly long but very good message. Much love.
How does this prevent...
What do we think the IDF is? A holiday camp?
Well, no, absolutely not. But shouldn't we be pledging some...
No, but it does have camps. Not holiday camps. Like prison camps.
But I say prison is very cushy. It's like a holiday camp.
I apologise for that outbreak of actual racism. What's going on there?
You set me up for an Alan Partridge reference.
I did.
So yeah, by the way, I wasn't just doing an Eastern European accent for the fun of it. There is actually an Eastern European character from the show I'm Alan Partridge that I was directly quoting from. Those who are unaware, please go and watch season 2 of I'm Alan Partridge, and then you'll get the reference.
Keep digging, yeah. Keep digging. It's always a good update.
who have...
Sorry, 350 arms licenses currently in place, of which 320 remain, and you don't think we're showing support for the Israeli Defence Force?
I absolutely do, but...
So why did you just ask why we aren't?
Because you
angry.
40,000 dead Palestinians. Now
why are you jumping around so much when everything you say I'm paying you the respect of addressing directly?
I don't think you are. You're
okay, so let's go back to the question of why don't we...
I genuinely have never seen him this angry. He's genuinely sort of pissed off with this person's
I think the last time I saw
the
last time I saw him this angry specifically was when he was debating the guy who couldn't name a Brexit law, an EU law that he voted Brexit to get rid of. Last time I saw him like this.
Yeah, good show. Absolutely. No, he was, yeah. Because it's that kind of realising you're being bullshitted, but by like a fucking idiot. It is. I find it offensive. Yeah, it's just usually he sort of doesn't, but occasionally he just, yeah. Oh, God bless you, Jimmy.
We show support for the IDF. Could you explain to my listeners how 350 arms licenses, of which 320 remain, somehow constitutes an absence of support? In your own words and in your own time.
That's absolutely not what I said.
Everybody heard you say it.
Okay, well, everyone can replay what this discussion.
What would you like to jump randomly to next, Holly?
I'm not jumping randomly to anything, but you're the
good.
one that keeps cutting across my statements, meaning
I
that
keep
I can't
repeating them back to you, and you keep denying that you've said it.
Absolutely not. 40,000 Palestinians are dead, you said. How many of those do we think are Hamas combat?
So we're jumping there now. So the question of do we approve or disapprove of what David Lammy has done, you've now opened up 6 different conversational gambits and refused to justify any of them.
Okay, so...
Yeah, it's really frustrating, isn't it, being sort of wrongfully accused of being an anti-Semite, isn't it, James?
Yeah.
It's honestly, I feel for you. Thankfully, I've never had to put up with years of that. And neither is any political movement that I quite liked. So, you know what, Jim? I feel for you, mate. My heart's with you.
Hopefully, you will apply that empathy to other politicians.
Well, you would hope so, otherwise it would make him a massive hypocrite. And I don't think he would be that. That would be terrible.
Also, although, sorry, I just want to point out, Satnav, the term Zio is like a slur invented by the KKK. If you want to call somebody pro-Zionist, then please do, but don't call people Zios, please.
Yeah. Even if you meant it as a shortening or whatever, just...
Most people do.
Yeah.
Most people just mean it's a shortening of Zionist. It's shorthand. It's all over TikTok especially. But people don't know that it was invented by David Duke of the KKK as shorthand for Jewish people.
Yeah.
And whilst I understand that you're not doing it maliciously, there are plenty of people out there who only know the term Zio from the context of it being used as a slur for Jews by the KKK. So just call people pro-Zionist or anti-Zionist, then it's clear what you're talking about.
You wouldn't shorten Pakistani.
Exactly.
So, I'm just saying.
What I think about David Lammy's decision yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, I disagree with it.
Why?
Why? Because we should be pledging unwavering support to a country and ally.
Unwavering. So literally, you want a blank check to do anything you like. Unwavering.
Well, that's the problem, is that these people's approach to Realpolitik, my favourite Spanish football team, Realpolitik.
True.
Is that there is good teams and there are bad teams. You support the good teams and you oppose the bad teams, and there are no good or bad actions. There are only good or bad teams. And that's why they get to this position. They've not properly thought through the geopolitical consequences of allowing some people the ability to flout the rules-based international order with your permission and others that you don't. There are plenty of us that take a blanket position that violations of the laws of armed conflict are wrong regardless of who do them, whether they are Hamas or the IDF or whatever. Yet, these people haven't thought that through. Because, of course, for people who are unaware, just in case you need this confirming for you, I don't think my chat or Kev's chat do, but just for anybody who's listening in later, post-hoc, I don't know why you would be and not know this. But if one side of a conflict is allowed to start breaking international law with not just the support of its allies, but its support of the hegemonic powers within international politics, such as the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Europe, whatever, the imperial core, the global north, then all that does is give every other nation who maybe isn't signed up to international law or who is outside of the sphere of influence of the global north, who the global north might have oppositions with, I don't know, say Russia, for example, they gives them the ability to do it with complete impunity because they have the immediate counter argument. Osama bin Laden used this counter argument too in his letter to America. He said, "Well, you broke the law in around the world, for example. You've continually broken the law as the imperial hegemon. So why do you care when we do it to you?" And of course, that doesn't justify anything these people do, but it means you cannot market yourselves as being the paragons of the international rules-based order when it applies to only other people who aren't on your team rather than people who are on your team.
So
that's
you're
the whole point. Once one side breaks the rules, everybody starts breaking the rules. It leads to terrorism. It leads to geopolitical instability.
So are you suggesting that you've got to hand it to Osama bin Laden?
No, that's explicitly not what I'm doing. What I am saying is that Hassan was right in terms of his commentary about 9/11. Like, he just was. If you don't uphold your own standards, people will use those breaking of standards against you, and that's where you got to. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. We'll put you down in the pro 9/11 column. Tick. It's very sus. Very sus. Thank you, Flint Reed, for the super chat. I didn't know you were from Somerset. Well, there you go. Hello there. Also, that pause game makes it look like his eyes have disappeared, which is very
Absolutely. Scary. Also, Becca in chat asks about the hostages being held in Israel. Are the hostages POWs or captives? What would you say? Because hostages implies if demands are met that they would be released. I mean, I think hostages is a good term because I think if demands were met, they would potentially be released in a hostage swap. Some of them are captives, but also some of them are prisoners of war. Some of these people are Palestinian militants in detention. Whether you think they should be in detention or not is up to you. But of course, that doesn't mean that the civilians who are there should be held there. They are, quite frankly, 100% hostages to me, and they would be used as bargaining chips in a prisoner swap. It's why those people who were released in the original prisoner swap have been taken captive again.
Well, exactly. Yeah, this is the thing. It's so explicitly obvious that what they're doing is taking hostages as bargaining chips, because some of them are children, who, by the very nature of what we mean by law, cannot have committed crimes. They're children. You have to be at the age of majority to be considered mentally well enough or mentally developed enough to be able to commit a crime, to have consciousness of forethought fully developed. They can't possibly have known what they were doing. They did not commit crimes. I'm sorry, a kid throwing a stone at a tank is not a crime. It's silly. It's not a crime.
That is combating.
What do we mean by unwavering?
To combating terrorism.
What do we mean by unwavering?
What they mean by unwavering is uncritical. Completely and utterly uncritical. Shut up and just let us do our genocide, but keep giving us money and arms and diplomatic support, but never criticise us in any way whatsoever, otherwise you're anti-Semitic. Lovely. It's like a very, very abusive relationship.
Terrorism. There are how many hostages in tunnels in Gaza?
You've done it again. What do we mean by unwavering?
Unwavering, meaning that we should be supporting Israel.
So is there anything Israel could do? Is there anything Israel could do which the UK government should?
Okay, Elliot, just on this point, when I said silly, I didn't mean that from a moral perspective. I meant from like the fact that you're probably going to get fucking shot or something. Yes, it is an incredibly brave thing for a child to do, and an incredibly desperate thing in many respects. But when I say silly, I mean from like a legal perspective or whatever, you know.
Should disapprove of.
But why is the Israel?
It's a simple question. Everyone's heard me ask it. Everyone can hear you not answer it.
But well, that's a disingenuous question.
No,
James.
you use the word unwavering. These rhetorical tactics don't work with me because I'm listening to everything you say. So this gilly-gashing and jumping all over the place. Tell me what unwavering means.
Unwavering.
Yes.
Support.
Yes. What does it mean?
Why review the licenses?
What does unwavering mean? Why review the licenses? Because they involve equipment that could be used to breach international law. Next question. What does unwavering mean? What does unwavering mean?
Unwavering means complete support.
So there is absolutely no circumstance in which the UK government should reject or oppose Israel's behaviour in Gaza.
Absolutely.
No.
Again, it is a pointless discussion then. Why are you even bothering?
Yep, literally, they could ethnically cleanse the entire population, throw them into the Sinai with no regard for international law, and this person would believe that they are the good team. They're on our team. They are Western. They're on our team. Therefore, I support it.
Yeah, I mean, just mask off nonsense. Amazing. Well, it's not as horrific straight away as the two nice Jewish guys. TM, but it's as genocidal, really. It's a blank check to do whatever you like with, which is not how international law works. Just saying.
Thank you. Why did it take so long to get there? So how many deaths is too many deaths?
I said that in the beginning.
How many deaths? No, you didn't.
Well, she's literally just said unwavering, so there's no number. Infinity.
Well,
all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's infinite people, but it doesn't matter. The number of people that die isn't what's relevant.
Yeah.
It is the adherence to the laws of war that is relevant. It's the adherence to international law in general over the occupation of Palestine and the ways in which that they've engaged in the administration of said occupation. That's what's relevant here, not how many people have died.
Yeah. A genocide doesn't technically have to involve the direct murder of anybody. Now, it very rarely obviously ever works out that way, because it always develops into just outright fucking murder. But in theory, it doesn't have to be. stealing children and having them placed with the different ethnic family is a component of genocide. It doesn't involve murdering anybody. In fact, it involves raising children very well in many cases. It's still genocide. Because it's about the destruction of a culture and a ethnic group.
Everybody heard what you said in the beginning. You said in the beginning there were no grounds for David Lammy doing what he'd done. Now, final question. Final question. Final question. Final question. How many...
He's never seen him this worked up. He's about to fucking blow his top. Final question. Love it. Go on, Jim Bob.
Deaths is too many.
There have already been too many deaths on both sides.
But we have to have unwavering support for more deaths.
But how is this?
Oh, I do like it when he's occasionally based. Very occasionally.
But again, he's been really good about Gaza ever since the start. I've been impressed with it. I just wish he'd applied the same amount of frustration with criticism of Israel being made to sound anti-Semitic to himself that did Jeremy Corbyn in 2017. Like, that's all I care about.
Yeah,
in terms of my criticism.
True.
Was this prevention?
Can't answer a question with a question. Unwavering support for more deaths, but there have been too many deaths. Talk me through that. Talk me through the logic of that.
How do we release the hostages? How do we stop?
By agreeing a ceasefire.
And how do we agree a ceasefire?
By getting rid of Benjamin Netanyahu and letting people who want a ceasefire get into power in Israel.
Based! Jimbo!
True.
What happened here,
Literally
mate?
True.
What's happened here?
Yeah. How about we start the whole discussion by not having a government in Israel that literally has ethnic cleansing written into its charter?
Yeah.
Would that be a good start?
Yeah. It would make negotiations with those that you're seeking to ethnically cleanse a lot easier. Because, you know, they don't like the idea of you being ethnically cleansed. So that'd be nice.
Exactly.
But let me take you back to the question of how many deaths is too many. At what point, Holly, at what point?
Wow, she's into... challenging the Hasbro talking tree makes them just overload and start going, they just killed 6 hostages! They just killed... As if that's like a defeater to every... What? So we should just ignore the genocide that's taking place?
I'll tell you what, this is the second... We're going to have to do a second I'm not driving a mini metro reference.
I'm not driving a mini metro, I'm not driving a mini metro, I'm not driving a mini metro.
Yeah, this is literally Lynn trying to force Alan Partridge to engage with reality.
Indeed, yes. And they are. The lack of self-reflection and acknowledgement is very similar between the ultra-Zionist people and Alan Partridge.
Yeah, this time the Netanyahu fan is on the other side of the discussion.
Yeah. They've spray-painted my car again. It says, cock piss Zionist. No!
I'm sorry this isn't going as well as you expected, but you need finally, Holly, to answer the question. Answer the question, how many deaths... All the hostages should be released immediately.
He literally has. He's called all the way through. He said the hostages need to be fucking
do
released.
A ceasefire deal so the hostages can be released. This woman's so stupid.
Oh, God. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, I'm so glad we watched this, because this is fucking nuts. She's out there, this one. Fucking hell.
Thank you.
Tell me finally, how many deaths, Holly? How many deaths? I've said that since October the 7th. How many deaths?
Never.
Well, we've established that there's something wrong with your ear.
Fuck yeah. Oh, thank you to Afan for 10 gifted subs. Much love.
Yay.
There you go. Although I have to find out a way to make it not give me 10 alert noises, because I have to fucking switch it off.
Ears, but how we've established that your ears don't operate in ways that most people recognise. Final question: at what point will you say? At what point? You can't keep doing it. I have
the conversation. I will.
No, you're shouting over him. Again, I will just point out it's called the James O'Brien Show, not the Mad Zionist Bitch fucking show, okay? Like, he can talk as much as he likes. You're trying to shout over him and then going, you won't let me finish. You're literally screaming at him.
I'm not driving a mini metro, I'm not driving a mini metro, I'm not driving a mini metro.
You're literally, like, It's like having a wasp in the car or something. It's just droning. Fucking hell. Oh.
We'll keep doing it because you owe a duty to
You
your
can't do
listeners.
it, can you?
There are 40,000.
You can't say, I don't care how many die.
Oh, Jim, it's spicy. I love it, mate. When did you grow this pair of balls? This is amazing.
I don't say that.
I know you don't.
Words in my mouth because
Well,
that's not how
so
I
tell
feel.
me how many then.
Not how I feel.
How many is too many?
Give me a specific number. If you don't want them all to die, give me a specific number. Yeah. Give me a ballpark figure. Oh, God. It'd be an amazing debate, bro. Internet blood sports debate, bro. It'd be amazing.
If LBC ever give up on James O'Brien, he's got a future as a Twitch debate lord.
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Slip in the occasional R word, you'd be massive. By the way, when did that happen? When did we decide that the R word was fine again? People need to fucking wind it the fuck in, because I'm getting well pissed off with it.
I'm not going to put a number on it because there isn't a number. There should
Because
not
you
be
can't say it,
anyone
can you?
dying
You
over
won't
it.
say it.
What should I be saying? What would you like me to say,
The
James?
truth.
Which is what?
How many deaths would be too many for you personally?
You see, for me, none. None.
So you want it to stop now?
I would love it
So
to
we should
stop
take
now.
weapons away from Israel? So you're in favour of the suspension of arms licences?
No. We shouldn't take weapons away from Israel.
So the killing will continue, and the support will be unwavering, and tens of thousands more people will die.
Hamas exist. There you go. I'm not driving a mini metro. Hamas exist. Hamas exist. Hamas exist.
Will he get Hamas? Will he get Hamas? Will he get Hamas?
Exactly. Like, it's amazing. This is so good, Jim. Look, and it's just pushing back on the like you say, the talking tree, the conversation tree that they want to go down, which they can get away with average people because most people don't fucking understand it and they don't want to be that combative. Whereas, like, he's a shitlord. So yeah, of course he's gonna fucking clap back on this one particular topic for some reason.
Aye.
James, Hamas exists. Do you understand that?
Also, actually, that's the point I wanted to make. The point I made earlier about I don't really give a fuck about people's words. It's sort of the thing that they support that means a lot more. She can say too many deaths, 0 deaths or 1 death is too many deaths or whatever, right? But if you're going to support the regime that's killed tens of thousands, your words are fucking hollow. They're an embarrassment. They're an insult. I'm not going to take that seriously. Fuck you. You are a genocidal prick.
Yeah, even if you're from a pro two-state solution perspective, it's very specific. If you're coming to this from a two-state solution perspective,
yes,
your fundamental best route towards achieving that solution is the removal of Netanyahu. James O'Brien has put here, the first thing you should want is the removal of Netanyahu and the collapse of the current government.
Yes.
Smotrich and Ben Gvir getting sent to prison along with Netanyahu, just as they all three of them fucking quite well deserve. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get to the point in which the government is forced to collapse? How do you do that? You cannot do that with unwavering support from the West to Israel. You cannot do that. As soon as you put up enough pressure to force a ceasefire deal and force into the conflict, a snap election is called, the coalition breaks down, Netanyahu's career is over, and then maybe we might swim somewhere close, or somewhere closer at the very least, to sanity. Yeah. You can't do that whilst people go, well, here's the toys, Benny boy, do whatever you want to do, go damn the results of that, both geopolitically, internally within Israel, internally within Palestine, and broadly in terms of the international community's approach to international law.
Indeed. Thank you for the bits, Elliot. Much love.
Silly question.
Hamas exists.
Is this what you're reduced to now? Shouting Hamas exists at me?
Yes.
So why are you not talking
1
about
million
Hamas's
deaths?
capability?
1 million deaths?
Why are you not talking
2 million
about
deaths?
Hamas's capability?
We're talking about the suspension of arms licenses to Israel.
Well, yeah, we're not talking about Hamas's military capabilities because we're not fucking arming Hamas.
I hate that line so much. They go, well, where's your protest march against Assad? And I'm like, we have never armed Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah, exactly. What do you want me to do here? Like, we're going to sell them minus weapons. What? What does that mean?
Yeah, that's what's frustrating is that liberals and actually less liberals, more like centrists and conservatives, seem to be of the opinion that protests are things that people do to make themselves feel good about themselves. They don't get that protests are a political action that you take to make demands for a change in policy direction specifically. So they think people protest because they want to see their voice heard and they want to show their opinion on something. No. Protests are there to agitate very specifically for a change in direction from your government. But they don't get that, so they think that everybody should go out and do. That's why they had their pro-Israel march. They didn't get that protest is about a change in policy. The government already supports their pro-Israel policy. Why the hell are you doing a pro-Israel march? Makes no sense. The pro-Palestinian marches exist because we had a concrete demand of calling for a ceasefire. In fact, Norman Finkelstein has been really great at challenging the rhetoric about no. You need to have your rhetoric specific around a specific policy. Ceasefire now, very specifically, is an excellent line because it unifies everybody in a single goal of stopping the killing now.
Indeed.
And that's a really good point. Us doing a demonstration about Bashar al-Assad means nothing because our government already fucking opposes Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah. Also, it's good to see James O'Brien has embraced his inner Bassem Youssef.
Yeah.
I will be serious. I was watching your interview with Ben Shapiro, and I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
I think that Ben Shapiro is one of the smartest people who ever walked this earth. He's very, very smart. I follow him, and I believe everything he said. And when he came on your show, his solution was, and I quote, his solution was that the solution for this is for Israel to annex Gaza and to kill as many son of bitches as possible to make sure that this will never happen again. And anyone who called for a ceasefire will be a terrorist sympathizer. So God forbid, I don't want to be labeled as a terrorist sympathizer. So I agree with Ben Shapiro. I think we should kill as many son of bitches as possible.
Well, let me,
so
okay.
far,
But Bassem, let me...
so far, 3,500 people were killed, including 5,000 son of bitches in the bombing of the Baptist hospital as we speak right now. 1/3 of those 3,500 were children. So my question to Ben Shapiro is, how many more son of bitches do we need to kill so Ben Shapiro is happy?
It's a very good question. Legend.
I love his story. I think his story is really, it's a really heartwarming story. I mean,
yeah,
it's full of tribulations and stuff, but the way that he treats the things that he's gone through and where he's gone, I think it's really heartwarming.
Oh, hang on.
Well, I spent 20 minutes explaining it this morning, but let's not go back to the state of your ears. Let's conclude with the question of 1 million. Is that too many, or would you still be calling for unwavering support?
James, why are you repeating the same question over and over?
Because you haven't answered it.
I did.
Cheeky motherfucker, you've spent the time going, Hamas exists, Hamas exists, Hamas exists, Hamas exists, and then going, James, you're a bit repetitive, mate. Are you taking the piss? Are you actually just, are you a troll? It's difficult to tell at this point.
That's the problem, right? It's that I think James is asking the wrong question here. It's not a case of how many people has died, it's how many war crimes could they commit, because that's the fulcrum on which the question is being asked.
True.
On which the arms sales are contingent upon, is whether or not international law has been violated. Obviously, we can all see that it has been, but this person's clearly not seen that. But regardless, say, for example, like if you're going to do a hypothetical response would be, well, what if they ethnically cleansed all the Palestinians from Gaza and pushed them into the Sinai? Should we keep selling the weapons then? What if they annex the entirety of the West Bank? Should we keep sending them weapons then? Would your support still be unwavering? You need to take the line of they can't sell weapons to a country violating international law and then push it to its broadest conclusions over what does or doesn't constitute international law violation.
True, but like this person, and I get the point you're making in terms of talking to the rest of the audience, but in terms of the actual conversation with this person, they weren't argued into this because of they believe in humanitarian law. So that line of argumentation won't work on that person because basically nothing will. You sort of make it emotional because it's difficult for them to even begin to clap back on that, because like The only answer you can give is, I want lots and lots more people to die. And you lose.
Yeah,
at that point you just lose.
That makes sense. Yeah, the optics are easy, even if it's not quite the same in terms of the.
Like if you were in a court.
Oh, Zakat, thank you for the raid.
Yeah.
Sorry, welcome in, Zakat viewers. 51 raiding party. Hello. We're talking UK politics, watching the notorious JOB talk to some pro-Israel person. Almost done with that though. It's getting quite late, but I appreciate everybody coming in. Please refresh your screens if UK politics from a socialist perspective sounds like your thing. From the Justice stream today. I stream live on YouTube and Twitch 6 days a week, at the very usually 5 days a week or 6 days a week. YouTube.com/NoJusticeMTG for my archived VODs and segmented content. I am here enjoying the content with Kevin Logan, the Milo Destroyer himself, at KFLogan1875 over on Twitch, at Ploppy11 over on YouTube, and not KFLogan1875 for his friend over on the Bird, and go and do the follows and the subscriptions and all of the things.
Yes, Wagwan brethrens, how are we, Mandem? I am a young person, honest. Anyway, the point I was going to make was, if you were in a court of law, you'd take a different approach to the one Jimmy's taking here. But he's not. He's a dickhead with a microphone, much like me, but with a slightly bigger platform. So he just used the emotional argument because it works, and it's true. Like, you should be appalled by the number of people that have been fucking killed, and the fact that you're not is grotesque. You know, and that pointing that out to people is probably quite effective.
I said
so
no death.
1 million dead, and you'd still say unwavering support.
I said no death. I said no death.
1 million dead, would you still call for unwavering support?
No, you can't say no deaths, because you've already admitted to, was it 30,000, which is obviously a ridiculous lowball, but they're a propagandist, so what are you going to do? But let's take that, right? That's 30,000 more than your stated goal, and you still haven't support. So clearly that isn't your red line, because you've got to 30,000 and you're still supporting it.
That's the problem. I think these people think they live in a world that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a geopolitical realist in like David Lammy's progressive realism. I'm not a realist, but like in terms of like the broad strokes of the kind of realism you see from people like Mia Scheinberg, etc., etc. I'm not a realist in that regard, but people like this literally just don't even live in reality. And I'm like, people are dying. People die in wars. This war is happening. We need to take steps to make sure that it ends and pressure Israel to agree to a ceasefire, because they, at this point, as far as I am concerned, are the barrier to a ceasefire happening.
Yeah.
What do we do? How are we supposed to stop international law being violated? How are we supposed to stop Netanyahu continuing a war to further his own political aims and his continuation of his premiership in Israel? How do we stop that? You have no answer to this question because you believe that geopolitical allyships between pro-Western nations should take precedence over the rules-based international order and the life of every Palestinian in Gaza. And the West Bank now as well.
Hamas.
Okay.
Why are you not talking about Hamas?
What do you think?
He literally condemned Hamas. He's called for the fucking hostages to be released. Like, what do you want him to do? Fly over there and fucking Rambo this shit? Not what he's again. I'm now as frustrated as he was. Like, what's the point? What's the point of this conversation?
I think we are talking about. We're talking about the suspension of arms licenses to Israel. What?
Because they are dealing with genocide
Okay, Holly.
or maniacs.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you're not allowed to ride roughshod over reality. You can keep doing this. You can keep doing this, but everybody listening, everybody listening.
You need to pull out a Vosh on this one, and I don't mean questionable files. I mean. Next to your tax folder or not, it doesn't matter, right? I meant mute button, and just let them rant, and then you can just go. She's still talking, she's still going, because that's absolute banger. That's a banger content move and a flex.
Listening can hear you.
Talking about that. That is
because we're talking about the latest development in the story, and you can't deal with it. Because you have unwavering support for the killings in Israel, for the killings in Gaza, whether it's 40,000, 400,000, 1 million, or 2 million, and that is what you mean by unwavering.
You won't listen to me.
I couldn't have listened any harder. I think you're the one that needs. You're the one that needs to start listening.
It's his fucking show. You called him. He doesn't have to give you 50-50 airtime. He doesn't have to give you any airtime.
Well, she could have said what unwavering means. She could have literally
Yeah.
said what unwavering means.
Yeah. True.
Listening to me, and then you'd realise that I've heard everything you've said, and I've paid you the compliment of responding to it, and you have struggled to cope.
Oh no, she's coping. She's coping a lot.
She's coping and seething.
Yeah, absolute seething. Oh, I'm glad we watched that. That was nice.
That was an absolute riot, wasn't it?
That was beautiful. Yeah. That's your brain on Zionism. Just fucking applesauce mush. Amazing shit. Jesus Christ. Like, and again, he summed it up, didn't he? What's the point? There really isn't any point, because you're not talking to a human, really. You're talking to you might as well be when I say I'm not dehumanizing the person. I mean, you're not talking to the person that's there. You're talking to essentially a pre-recorded voice. You're talking to an AI machine that's going to spit back an answer. That's it. There's no brain going on there. Yeah.
It's just dialogue trees. Just all it is dialogue tree, NPC shit.
Indeed so. Indeed so. Was there any more for any more?
I don't have anything on my watch later. I don't think. Let me double check.
Yeah. There was a thing I was going to watch, but I sort of wanted to watch that on my own. Really, it was about this right-wing twat going to Birmingham's no-go zones. Which
well, yeah, I've been going like it's been like a full 3 hours now. So I mean, if you're going to continue going, I can raid everybody.
No, I'm gonna save that probably for tomorrow.
No worries then.
Yeah.
No worries. Well, I will send my viewers over into President Sunday on YouTube. Twitch Reno. Who's going on Twitch?
Yeah. Who am I going to go over to on the YouTubes? Why does that make it more difficult on YouTube? It's very annoying. Customization. Who is going?
On Twitch. I tell you what, I'm going to go left field over on Twitch. I'm going to send my viewers into Francesca Fiorentini, because I've never raided into her before, but I think she's cool.
I think we've been over to Francesca once or twice. Fran Frio, is it?
Yes, Franafio, yeah.
I can't seem to find her.
So it's Fran. It says Fran Ifio. So Franif. Oh, is that a 1? I think. Maybe that's a 1 for the second I.
There you go. It is.
Okay.
It's crafty as fuck. That's why I couldn't find it. Anyway, yes. She's interviewing Michael Fox. Not Michael J. Fox. That would be a very different conversation, I imagine. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll probably be taking a look at PMQs or something. Yeah, shout yourself out.
Absolutely. At No Justice MTG and all of the platforms, all of the things. If that sounds like, do you want to follow from the stuff that you heard from our various ranting today? You can go and do that. Everyone on my channel, go and follow KF Logan 1875, the same one I shouted out 10 minutes ago when Zach rated it.
Yes. It sort of feels almost...
And give us both money.
Yes, that is important as well. Almost feels sort of, not pointless, but like, everyone knows the other channel by now, I think, surely. But there's always new people.
Also, I think I missed out. Everyone go follow Zack over on Twitch.
Yes,
for
also,
educational, political content from a far left perspective. Zack is your channel. Go and do the follow. YouTube and Twitch viewers. There's 300 of you. Go and do it.
True. Yeah, peace out and free Palestine.
As we do. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.